At my sister Madison's engagement party with 39 guests watching my father's fist connected with my jaw. The impact sent me stumbling backward into the dessert table. My mother's laughter rang out first, followed by my brother Tyler's slow clap. "Serves you right for ruining everything again, Lydia," he shouted. Blood trickled from my split lip as I stood there, 28 years old, successful and completely done. They had no idea I held the power to destroy everything they'd built their lives on. 3 hours before that devastating moment, I had walked through the grand entrance of the Riverside Country Club with nothing but good intentions in my heart. The October afternoon sun cast golden light through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the elegant decorations my mother had spent months planning. White roses and baby's breath adorned every table, and a string quartet played softly in the corner. I had left Thompson & Associates early, telling the senior partners I had a family obligation. My charcoal gray suit was perfectly pressed, my hair pulled back in the professional bun I'd worn to court that morning. I thought I looked appropriate for my younger sister's engagement celebration. "Lydia, you're late." My mother, Patricia, greeted me at the entrance. Her critical eyes swept over my appearance and her lips pursed in that familiar expression of disappointment. "Couldn't you have worn something more festive? You look like you're heading to a funeral." "Hello to you too, Mom," I responded, keeping my voice level. 28 years of practice had taught me not to react to her barbs. My father, Robert, stood near the bar, deep in conversation with several men I recognized from his construction company. He glanced my way briefly, then turned his back without acknowledgement. That was typical. In his eyes, I had ceased to exist the moment I chose law school over joining the family business. Well, if it isn't the family buzzkill." Tyler's voice came from behind me. My younger brother, 25 and still living off his trust fund, smirked while holding a glass of champagne. "Let me guess you're going to bore everyone with stories about your latest contract negotiation." "Nice to see you too, Tyler," I replied, moving past him toward the main reception area. The room was filled with Dallas society's finest. Madison had always moved in these circles effortlessly, her beauty and charm opening doors that remained closed to me. At 26, she looked radiant in a flowing pink dress that complemented her blonde hair perfectly. She was everything our parents wanted in a daughter, beautiful, social, and about to marry into one of Texas's wealthiest families. Brandon Whitfield stood beside her, his hand possessively on her lower back. Tall, handsome, and heir to a real estate fortune, he was the prize our mother had been grooming Madison to catch since high school. The 4-carat diamond on Madison's finger caught the light as she gestured animatedly to a group of her sorority sisters. I made my way through the crowd, exchanging polite greetings with relatives and family friends. Aunt Grace, my mother's sister, pulled me into a perfumed hug. "Lydia, darling, you look wonderful. How's the law firm treating you?" "Very well, thank you," I answered, genuinely warming to her kindness. Aunt Grace had always been different from the rest of the family, showing actual interest in my career. "Ladies and gentlemen," the band leader announced, "the mother of the bride-to-be has asked that we begin the formal toasts." My stomach tightened. I hadn't prepared anything, but I knew refusing to speak would be seen as another mark against me. Various relatives stood and offered glowing tributes to the couple. Madison's sorority sisters gushed about her perfect relationship. Brandon's fraternity brothers made jokes about him being tied down that earned uncomfortable laughter. Then my mother's voice cut through the room. "Lydia, surely you have something to say about your sister's happiness." Every eye turned to me. I stood slowly picking up a champagne glass I hadn't touched. Madison watched me with a mixture of wariness and defiance, while Brandon's expression remained neutrally pleasant. "Of course," I began my courtroom training, keeping my voice steady despite the anxiety building in my chest. "Madison, you've always been the star of our family, beautiful, charming, beloved by everyone who meets you." I paused, noting my mother's approving nod. "And Brandon, you seem like a wonderful man who genuinely adores my sister." The room relaxed slightly. This was going according to script. "I'm just so happy." I continued, that Madison has found someone who loves her for who she really is, someone she doesn't have to pretend with. After everything she's been through, she deserves a fresh start with someone who doesn't know about her past mistakes. The words left my mouth before I fully realized their impact. I had meant them kindly, thinking about the eating disorder she'd battled in college, the struggles she'd hidden behind her perfect facade. But something in the room's atmosphere shifted dramatically. Brandon's face went from pleasant to confused to alarmed. Past mistakes. What past mistakes? Madison's perfectly made-up face drained of color. Lydia, what are you talking about? I just meant... I stammered, suddenly aware I had stepped on some hidden landmine. Everyone has challenges they overcome. No. Brandon's voice turned hard. What specific mistakes, Madison? What is she talking about? My sister's hands shook as she set down her champagne glass. Her eyes darted to our parents, a silent plea for help. But it was too late. Once Brandon Whitfield sensed a secret, he was like a bloodhound on a trail. It's nothing, honey. Madison tried, her voice pitched too high. Lydia's just being dramatic as usual. Then why do you look terrified? Brandon stepped away from her, his jaw tightening. What haven't you told me? The room had gone completely silent except for the string quartet, who continued playing Mozart, oblivious to the drama unfolding. Then Madison did something I'd never seen before. She started crying. Not her usual delicate tears designed to elicit sympathy, but genuine, terrified sobs. Tell me the truth, Brandon demanded. Now. And in that moment, watching my sister's perfect world begin to crumble, I realized I had accidentally lit a fuse that would explode everything our family had built. The champagne glass trembled in my hand as the first domino fell, setting in motion events that would change all our lives forever. Madison's sobs grew louder, mascara streaming down her cheeks in black rivers. Brandon stood rigid, his wealthy family closing ranks behind him, like a small army. His mother, Eleanor Whitfield, stepped forward with the bearing of a queen whose kingdom had been insulted. Madison, dear. Eleanor's voice could have frozen hell itself. I think you owe my son an explanation. What exactly is this past your sister mentioned? It's nothing, my mother interjected, moving swiftly to Madison's side. Lydia has always been jealous of her sister's success. She's trying to ruin this beautiful day with lies. But Brandon wasn't looking at my mother. His eyes remained fixed on Madison, who seemed to shrink under his gaze. 3 years, he said quietly. We've been together 3 years, and you've told me everything about your life, every boyfriend, every heartbreak. So what could Lydia possibly know that I don't? Madison's sorority sisters exchanged knowing glances. One of them, a redhead named Brittany, actually took a step backward, as if distancing herself from the impending explosion. That small movement told Brandon everything he needed to know. They know, he stated flatly. Your friends know something I don't. Brandon, please. Madison reached for his hand, but he pulled away. Can we discuss this privately? No. His voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to getting answers. We're getting married in 4 months. If there's something I should know, tell me now. The silence stretched unbearably. Aunt Grace had her phone out, seemingly checking messages, but I noticed she had switched to video mode. Other guests shifted uncomfortably, torn between the social protocol of giving the couple privacy and the irresistible draw of witnessing drama among Dallas's elite. Finally, Madison straightened her spine. For a moment, I saw a flash of our father's stubbornness in her expression. Fine. You want to know I had an affair with Professor Morrison at SMU. Are you happy now? The room erupted in gasps and whispers, but Brandon's face showed this was only part of the story. Professor Morrison is married, and he's 58 years old. You were, 22? 21, Madison whispered. But that's not all, is it? Brandon's voice grew colder with each word. Because you said affair, not relationship. Affairs end differently. My father, who had been standing frozen by the bar, suddenly came to life. That's enough, Brandon. You've humiliated my daughter sufficiently. Whatever happened in the past is the past." "Is it?" Eleanor Whitfield's voice cut through my father's bluster, because I recall Madison telling me she'd only been with 2 boys before my son, both from appropriate families. She certainly never mentioned a married professor old enough to be her grandfather. "Mother." Brandon warned, but Eleanor continued. "No, darling. If we're airing secrets, let's air them completely. I've had my suspicions about this girl from the beginning. Too eager, too perfect, too calculated in her approach to you." Madison's carefully constructed facade finally shattered completely. "Yes, I targeted your son. Is that what you want to hear? I knew he was wealthy. I knew he was kind, and I knew he would never ask too many questions about my past. Because yes, there was a professor. And yes, it ended badly. And yes, my family paid him to keep quiet about it." The admission hung in the air like a toxic cloud. I watched my father's face turn purple with rage, while my mother swayed as if she might faint. Tyler for once seemed stunned into silence. "Paid him?" Brandon's voice was barely above a whisper. "You mean blackmail?" "It wasn't blackmail," my father roared. "It was a settlement. That professor took advantage of my daughter, and we handled it quietly to protect her reputation." "Took advantage?" Madison laughed bitterly. "Is that the story you've been telling yourself, Dad? I pursued him. I wanted the grade, the recommendation, the thrill of it. When his wife found out and threatened to expose me to the dean, you paid them both off to protect the family name." "Madison," my mother shrieked, "stop talking." But the dam had broken. Madison turned to Brandon with desperate eyes. "I never meant to hurt you. I fell in love with you for real. What we have isn't calculated anymore. Please believe me." Brandon's response was to remove the engagement ring from his pocket, where he'd been planning to upgrade it during the party, as a surprise. He set it carefully on the nearest table. "The engagement is off. Mother, we're leaving." "Brandon, wait." Madison lunged forward, but my father caught her arm. And that's when his fury found a new target, me. "You..." He rounded on me with violence in his eyes. "You did this. You've always been jealous of Madison, always trying to tear her down, and now you've destroyed her life." "I didn't know," I protested, backing away from his advancing figure. "I swear I had no idea about the professor or any of it." "Liar." He grabbed my shoulders, his construction worker hands digging into my flesh hard enough to bruise. "You're the family lawyer. You know everything. You've been waiting for the perfect moment to humiliate us all." "Dad, you're hurting me." "Good." He shook me violently, my teeth rattling with the force. "Do you have any idea what you've cost us? The Whitfield connection was going to save my business. The contracts I would have gotten, the doors that would have opened." "So this was about money," I gasped out. "Madison's marriage was just another business deal to you." That's when he snapped. His right hand released my shoulder, pulled back, and connected with my jaw with all the force his 240 pounds could muster. The pain exploded through my face as I flew backward, crashing into the dessert table. Plates shattered, the cake toppled, and I found myself on the floor covered in frosting and blood from my split lip. The room erupted. Some guests screamed. Others pulled out phones. But what hurt worse than the physical blow was what came next. My mother's laugh started small, almost hysterical, before building into something crueler. "Look at her," she said between gasps of laughter, finally showing her true colors, always pretending to be so perfect, so moral, so much better than us. But you're nothing but a spiteful, jealous witch who couldn't stand to see her sister happy. Tyler began a slow clap, each strike of his palms like another blow. "Bravo, Lydia! Bravo! You finally did it! You finally proved what we've always known, that you're not really part of this family. You're just the charity case we've tolerated for 28 years. Charity case. I struggled to my feet, blood dripping onto my ruined suit. "Oh, she doesn't know," Tyler laughed, turning to address the room like a performer. Ladies and gentlemen, my supposed sister doesn't even know the best part. Tell her mom. Tell her why Dad has always hated her. Tyler, shut up, my mother warned, but her earlier cruelty had awakened something vicious in my brother. No, she deserves to know, especially now. He pointed at me with his champagne glass. You're not his daughter, Lydia. Mom had an affair, got knocked up, and Dad the fool agreed to raise you. But you've been nothing but a reminder of her betrayal ever since. The revelation hit harder than my father's fist. I looked at my mother for denial for anything but found only cold confirmation in her eyes. Is that true? I whispered. Of course it's true. My father spat, literally spat on the floor near my feet. I fed you, clothed you, educated you for 28 years, and this is how you repay me by destroying my real daughter's future. Aunt Grace's voice cut through the chaos. I've got it all on video, every second of this. Good, Tyler shouted. Post it everywhere. Let the world see what Lydia really is, a bastard who tried to destroy her own family out of spite. I stood there covered in cake and blood, watching my entire world crumble. The family I'd tried so hard to please, to belong to serve, had never seen me as anything more than an unwanted burden. The physical pain in my jaw was nothing compared to the emotional devastation of realizing 28 years of my life had been a lie. Madison had stopped crying and now stared at me with something almost like pity. The Whitfields were already at the door, their disgust evident in every line of their bodies. The other guests stood frozen, unsure whether to offer help or flee the scene of such spectacular dysfunction. Get out, my father commanded. Get out and never come back. You're no daughter of mine. You never were. I straightened my shoulders, wiped the blood from my chin with as much dignity as I could muster, and walked toward the exit. Behind me, I heard my mother comforting Madison, my brother calling for more champagne to celebrate the trash taking itself out, and my father on his phone probably calling his lawyer to cut me out of everything. But as I pushed through the country club doors into the cool October evening, something inside me shifted. They thought they had broken me. They thought they had won. They had no idea that they had just unleashed something far more dangerous than a family embarrassment. They had created an enemy who knew all their secrets, and I was done protecting them. My hands shook so violently, I dropped my car keys twice before managing to unlock my BMW. The parking valet, a young man who'd witnessed my humiliating exit, avoided eye contact as I slumped into the driver's seat. In the rearview mirror, I caught sight of my reflection and immediately wished I hadn't. Blood had dried on my chin. Purple frosting matted my dark hair, and a bruise was already forming along my jawline where Robert's fist had connected. I drove for exactly 3 blocks before pulling into a CVS parking lot. My phone had been buzzing nonstop since I'd left the country club. With trembling fingers, I finally looked at the screen. 47 notifications, text messages, missed calls, and most horrifyingly, social media alerts. The first video was already viral. Aunt Grace, true to form, had posted the entire incident on every platform imaginable. Family drama at elite Dallas engagement party. Read one caption. Father punches daughter for exposing sister's affair, screamed another. The comments were pouring in by the hundreds. Strangers dissecting my life, my family, my humiliation for their entertainment. Some defended me, calling my father a monster. Others agreed with Tyler that I had deliberately sabotaged my sister. But worse than the strangers were the people I knew. Colleagues from the law firm, former classmates, professional contacts, all witnessing the complete destruction of my carefully maintained reputation. I set the phone aside and stumbled into the CVS. The harsh fluorescent lights made everything surreal as I gathered supplies, makeup wipes, bandages, hydrogen peroxide, and a bottle of water. The teenage cashier stared at my destroyed appearance, but wisely said nothing as she rang up my items. Back in my car, I cleaned my face methodically the way I'd learned to clean up messes my whole life. Physical ones were always easier than emotional ones. As I dabbed at the cut on my lip, wincing at the sting of peroxide, my legal mind began to function again. Thompson and Associates. I'd been there for 4 years, working my way up from junior associate to senior counsel. But more importantly, I'd been handling a very specific type of client for the past 2 years: family members. It had started innocently enough. Dad needed someone to review contracts for his construction company, and who better than his lawyer daughter who'd do it for free? Then Mom needed help managing Grandma Rose's estate after she'd passed. Tyler required legal assistance with his various failed business ventures and trust fund issues. Even Madison had come to me when she needed NDAs drawn up for her private matters. I thought I was being a good daughter, a good sister, using my skills to protect and serve my family. But as I sat in that pharmacy parking lot, blood cleaned away but pain still throbbing, I realized something that should have been obvious years ago. I knew everything, every secret, every lie, every hidden transaction. My hand steadied as I reached for my briefcase in the back seat. I never went anywhere without it, a habit drilled into me during law school. Inside, along with current case files, was a secure tablet containing encrypted copies of every document I'd ever handled for my family. I powered it on and began scrolling through the files with new eyes. There was Dad's construction company, RW Construction, Inc. I'd always wondered about certain inconsistencies in the book's odd transfers that didn't quite match up with reported income. At the time, I'd chalked it up to poor bookkeeping. Now I saw patterns: shell companies, inflated invoices, projects that existed only on paper. Then there were the personal finances, Mom's management of Grandma Rose's estate. Grandma had been worth nearly $3 million when she died, her fortune built through decades of careful investment and her late husband's military pension. The will had been specific certain amounts to each grandchild, the rest to various charities she'd supported. But the disbursements had been delayed repeatedly, Mom citing complications with the probate. I pulled up the actual documents, the charity payments that should have been made monthly, the accounts that showed regular withdrawals for administrative expenses that seemed excessive, the investment accounts that had been liquidated without proper documentation. Tyler's trust fund records were equally illuminating. Grandfather had set it up to provide him with modest support through age 30, when he would receive the bulk of his inheritance. But there were early withdrawals signed off by Dad as trustee for amounts far exceeding what was allowed. And some of those withdrawals coincided with deposits into RW construction accounts. My phone rang, jarring me from my investigation. Madison's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. Then Mom called, then Tyler. Then a number I didn't recognize, followed by another and another. The vultures were circling either to berate me further or to feast on the drama. But one name made me pause. Jennifer Martinez. Special Agent Jennifer Martinez from the IRS Criminal Investigation Division. We'd worked together on several legitimate tax cases for other clients. She was sharp, thorough, and had mentioned more than once that financial crimes within families were often the most underreported and overlooked. I stared at her contact information, remembering our last conversation. She'd asked almost casually if I ever noticed anything unusual in my family business dealings. I'd laughed it off, saying my family was boringly legitimate. She'd given me a strange look and said, "In my experience, the families that protest their legitimacy the loudest often have the most to hide." Another memory surfaced. 6 months ago, Dad had asked me to notarize some documents for a major construction project. He'd been oddly insistent that I not read them thoroughly, just verify his signature. I'd complied, trusting him, but I'd kept copies, as I did with everything. Now I pulled up those files. My blood ran cold. The documents weren't just construction contracts, they were loan applications using my name and bar license number as the authorized legal representative. Loans I'd never seen for amounts that made no sense for the projects described. And the signature on the legal verification, a decent forgery of mine. He'd been using my license, my reputation, my spotless record to commit fraud. And if these deals went bad, if anyone investigated whose name was on the documents, not Robert Walker, president of RW Construction, but Lydia Walker, attorney at law. A new notification popped up. The video of my father punching me had now been shared over 10,000 times. But instead of humiliation, I felt a strange calm settling over me. They thought they had destroyed me. They thought I would crawl away and disappear, the family embarrassment, finally excised. They were wrong. I had 3 phone calls to make, 3 carefully chosen pressure points that would bring their house of cards tumbling down. But first, I needed to get home secure all my evidence and prepare for war. As I started the car, one final realization struck me. That moment at the party when I'd accidentally exposed Madison's secret. Looking back, it hadn't felt entirely accidental. Some part of me buried deep had wanted the truth to come out, had wanted the lies to end. Well, now they would, all of them. I drove home through the Dallas streets past the familiar landmarks of my life. The law school where I'd studied while my family partied. The small apartment I'd lived in during my internship, too proud to accept Dad's money. The courthouse where I'd built my reputation case by case, never trading on the Walker name. That name meant nothing to me now. I was Lydia Walker, attorney. But more importantly, I was Lydia Walker, survivor. And I was about to show them exactly what happened when you backed a survivor into a corner. They wanted me gone. Fine. But I wouldn't go quietly, and I certainly wouldn't go alone. My apartment in uptown Dallas had always been my sanctuary. 23rd floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, decorated in clean lines and muted colors that reflected the order I craved in my life. As I entered, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. The bruise on my jaw had darkened to an ugly purple, but my eyes held something new, determination. I went straight to my home office, a converted bedroom where I kept physical copies of important documents in a fireproof safe. My hands were steady now as I began pulling files, creating 3 distinct piles on my desk. The adrenaline from the party had faded, replaced by the cold clarity I usually reserved for the courtroom. The first pile was for the IRS. I opened my laptop and began cross-referencing the physical documents with my digital files, building an airtight case. The patterns were so obvious now that I wondered how I'd missed them before. But that was the thing about family, you trusted them even when every instinct screamed otherwise. I picked up my phone and scrolled to Jennifer Martinez's contact. It was nearly 8 o'clock on a Saturday evening, but I knew she'd answer. Jennifer was like me, married to the job-finding purpose in untangling financial webs that others had woven. She answered on the second ring. "Lydia, I just saw the video. Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said, then laughed bitterly. "Actually, no, I'm not fine, but I will be. Jennifer, you were right about families hiding things. I need to report some serious financial crimes." "Are you sure you want to do this tonight? You've been through trauma?" "The trauma opened my eyes," I interrupted. "I've been unknowingly enabling tax evasion for years. My father's construction company has been hiding income through shell companies, inflating expenses, and avoiding nearly $2 million in taxes over the past 5 years. Silence on the other end, then the sound of a pen clicking. "Go on." I walked her through everything, my voice growing stronger with each revelation. The shell companies registered in Delaware Walker Holdings, LLC RW Investments, Patriot Construction Group. The pattern of moving money between them, breaking up large payments to avoid reporting requirements. The government contracts obtained using false information about company assets and previous work. The bribery payment to Professor Morrison, I continued, was disguised as a consulting fee to Morrison Educational Services, a company that exists only on paper. They claimed it as a business expense, reducing their tax liability by $40,000 that year alone. "You have documentation for all of this." "Everything. Bank records, tax returns, incorporation, documents, invoices. I've been keeping copies of everything I've handled for them, thinking I was protecting them. Turns out I was documenting their crimes." Jennifer's tone shifted to full professional mode. I need you to understand what you're doing here. Once you formally report this, there's no going back. The IRS will pursue this aggressively, especially given the amounts involved. Your father could face serious jail time. He punched me in the face in front of 39 witnesses, I said flatly. Called me a bastard, told me I wasn't his daughter, that I'd never been anything but a burden he tolerated. I'm done protecting him. And you're willing to testify? I'm willing to provide everything. But Jennifer, there's something else. I think he's been using my name and bar license to file fraudulent documents. I never authorized it, but my name is on loan applications and contracts I've never seen before tonight. That changes things significantly. You're not just a witness, you're a victim of identity theft and professional fraud. We'll need to protect you while we investigate. Can you come to the office tomorrow? I'll be there at 9. Lydia. Her voice softened slightly. I know this is difficult. Family cases always are. But you're doing the right thing. Financial crimes aren't victimless. The tax money your father stole could have funded schools' infrastructure programs for people who actually need help. After we hung up, I sat back and looked at the pile of evidence I'd assembled for the IRS. It was comprehensive damning and would trigger an investigation that would unravel everything Robert Walker had built through deception. But I wasn't done. This was just the first call. I pulled up the contracts I'd reviewed for Dad's biggest project, the Meridian Plaza development. It was supposed to be a $40 million mixed-use complex, his ticket to the big leagues of Dallas development. But the more I studied the documents, the more irregularities I found. The environmental assessments had been rushed through with suspicious speed. The minority contractor requirements had been met using companies that seemed to exist only on paper. And the financing. The financing was where things got truly interesting. 3 separate loans from different banks each told they were the primary lender. Construction bonds that had been sold to multiple investors, and all of it secured by assets that had already been pledged elsewhere. It wasn't just tax evasion. It was fraud on a massive scale. I made notes for Jennifer, adding them to the IRS pile, but something else caught my eye. In the latest loan documents, the ones Dad had me notarize without reading, there was a personal guarantee. Not from him, but from me. He'd forged my signature to personally guarantee a $15 million construction loan. My phone buzzed with another call. This time, it was Harold Stevenson, Grandma Rose's estate attorney. I'd worked with Harold on the probate, though Mom had insisted on handling most of the day-to-day management herself. Lydia, I've been trying to reach you. Harold's voice was tense. I saw what happened today. Are you safe? I'm home. I'm fine. Why were you trying to reach me? Because I received some rather disturbing information about the estate distributions. The quarterly charity payments that were supposed to go out, they've been redirected. Your mother listed them as paid in the reports to the court, but the charities never received them. My grip on the phone tightened. How much? Over $300,000. The Children's Medical Foundation, the Veterans Support Network, the Literary Council, all expecting quarterly payments that never came. I only found out because the Medical Foundation called me directly when their funding shortfall meant canceling programs. She stole from sick children. Even knowing my mother's coldness, this shocked me. It appears so. As co-executor, you have a fiduciary duty to report this. I wanted to give you the chance to handle it within the family first, but after what I saw today, there is no family, I said firmly. Not anymore. Send me everything you have. I'll be making a full report. After Harold hung up, I added his information to my growing piles of evidence. The IRS would be very interested to know about the estate fraud, especially since Mom had likely failed to pay taxes on the stolen money. Looking at the clock, I realized I'd been working for 2 hours. My jaw ached, reminding me of the physical assault that had started this journey. But I felt more alive than I had in years. For 28 years, I'd been the good daughter, the responsible one cleaning up messes and keeping secrets. Now I was going to be something else entirely, the witness, the prosecutor, the bringer of justice. My phone showed 57 missed calls and over 100 text messages. I scrolled through them without reading, deleting them in batches. Then I saw one that made me pause. From an unknown number, but the message was clear. Ms. Walker, my name is James Chen from the FBI Financial Crimes Division. Agent Martinez contacted me about your situation. We've been investigating RW Construction for 6 months. Your cooperation could be the breakthrough we need. Please call me at your earliest convenience. I stared at the message. The FBI had already been watching. Everything I discovered tonight they probably already suspected. But they needed an insider, someone with access and knowledge. They needed me. I saved James Chen's number but didn't call yet. I still had 2 more calls planned for tonight, and I wanted all my ammunition ready before I brought in the FBI. If I was going to burn down the Walker empire, I was going to do it thoroughly. Standing up to stretch, I walked to my windows and looked out at the Dallas skyline. Somewhere out there, my family was probably huddled together plotting how to salvage Madison's reputation and their social standing. They had no idea what was coming. The woman they'd punched, humiliated, and discarded wasn't the same woman who'd walked into that engagement party hoping to celebrate her sister's happiness. That woman was gone, destroyed by their cruelty. In her place stood someone far more dangerous, someone with nothing left to lose and everything to gain, someone who knew where all the bodies were buried and was ready to start digging them up. The first call had been made. The IRS was mobilizing. By Monday morning, Robert Walker would wake up to a nightmare of his own making. But I wasn't done. Not even close. The clock on my laptop showed 10:30 when I finally picked up my phone to make the second call. I'd spent another hour organizing evidence, creating digital backups, and securing everything in my cloud storage. If my family tried to break into my apartment or hack my devices, they'd find nothing. Years of handling sensitive legal documents had taught me to be paranoid about data security. Brandon Whitfield's personal number was in my contacts from when I'd helped review some basic contracts for a charity event he and Madison had hosted. I hesitated for a moment, wondering if he'd even answer. The man had just endured public humiliation. He might not want to hear from any Walker ever again. But I had information he needed, information that might save him from making a terrible mistake if he let emotions override logic and took Madison back. He answered on the 4th ring, his voice tired and wary. "Lydia, why are you calling?" "Because you deserve to know the complete truth," I said simply. What came out at the party was just the tip of the iceberg, and despite what you might think I didn't know about any of it when I made that toast, I'm as shocked as you are. Your family seems to think you planned the whole thing. My family just showed you who they really are. Did you see the part where my father punched me? Where my mother laughed? Where they revealed I'm not even his biological daughter? A pause. I left before that, but I've seen the video. Everyone has. I'm sorry that happened to you. Don't be sorry. Be grateful. They showed you their true faces before you legally bound yourself to them. Brandon, there are things about Madison you need to know. Not because I want to hurt her more, but because you have a right to make informed decisions about your future. Such as... I took a breath. This was harder than calling the IRS. That was about crimes. This was about destroying whatever feelings might remain between Brandon and Madison. The professor wasn't her only affair. There were 3 others that I helped her handle legally. A married state senator who she blackmailed for $50,000 when he tried to end things. The CFO of Brennan Industries who she targeted specifically because he was going through a divorce and vulnerable. And your friend Marcus Chen. Marcus when? 6 months ago. Right after your grandmother's funeral when you were in Switzerland dealing with the estate. She needed someone to escort her to a charity gala, one where she knew photographers would be present. The photos of them looking cozy were meant to make you jealous, to push you toward proposing faster. I could hear his breathing change, becoming harsher. You have proof of all this. NDAs, text messages, bank transfers. I have everything because I'm the one who papered it all, who made the problems go away. I thought I was protecting my sister from predatory men, but looking at the patterns now, she was the predator. Why are you telling me this? Because in about 10 minutes, you're going to get a call from Madison. She's going to cry, apologize, maybe even show up at your door. She's going to swear the professor was the only mistake, that everything with you is real. And you might be tempted to believe her because you loved her. But Brandon, she targeted you from the beginning. What do you mean, targeted? I pulled up the relevant emails on my laptop. I have correspondence between her and my mother from 3 years ago, right before you met. They had a list of eligible bachelors in Dallas, ranked by net worth and family connections. You were number 1 on that list. They studied your routines, your interests, your weaknesses. Madison took up tennis because you played. She volunteered at the animal shelter because you're on the board. That story about randomly meeting at the coffee shop. She was there every morning for 3 weeks waiting for you to show up. Silence stretched between us. Then quietly, I really loved her. I know. And maybe in her way she loved you too. But Brandon, there's something else you need to know. Something that just came to light tonight. What now? She's pregnant. What? No, that's impossible. She's on birth control. We've been careful because we wanted to wait until after the wedding. Check your calendar, I said gently. When did you two become intimate for the first time? Our trip to Cabo in February, 7 months ago. She's 7 months pregnant, Brandon. The timeline doesn't match because she was already pregnant when you met. My guess, it's the professor's. The timing aligns with when my father made the payoff to keep him quiet. The sound that came through the phone was pure anguish, a man realizing the depth of deception he'd nearly married into. When he spoke again, his voice had hardened. Your family is sick. Yes, they are, which is why I'm done protecting them. The IRS and FBI will be investigating my father's construction company by Monday. My mother is about to be charged with estate fraud. My brother, well, we'll get to him, but you need to protect yourself now. How? File a restraining order immediately. Madison will try to claim the baby is yours, maybe demand support, or use it to force a relationship. Get ahead of it. Demand a paternity test before any discussions. Document everything. And Brandon, check your finances. Make sure she doesn't have access to any account's credit cards or personal information that could be compromised. She has a credit card on my account and the password to my investment portfolio because she helped me review some charitable giving options. Change everything tonight. Lock down your credit. Alert your family's financial advisors. Madison learned from our parents, and when cornered, she'll get desperate. This is insane. 3 hours ago, I was about to announce we were moving up the wedding date. 3 hours ago, you didn't know who you were really marrying. The Whitfield family fortune was the ultimate prize for them. Your mother was right to be suspicious. Brandon cleared his throat. Lydia, can I ask you something? Why are you different from them? You're clearly nothing like your family. The question made me pause. Probably because Robert Walker isn't my biological father. I spent 28 years trying to earn love from people who were incapable of giving it. The only person who ever really cared about me was my grandmother, Rose, and even she kept the secret of my parentage. Do you know who your real father is? No, and honestly, after tonight, I'm not sure I care. I'm done defining myself by whose daughter I am or am not. Fair enough. He paused. My family's law firm, Whitfield and Associates. We have an opening in our corporate litigation department. After what you did tonight, telling the truth, even though it cost you everything, that takes integrity. We value that. Brandon, you don't owe me anything. This isn't charity. You're a damn good lawyer. I've seen your work on those charity contracts, and we're about to launch a division focused on financial crimes and corporate fraud. Seems like you might have some unique insights in that area. Despite everything, I found myself almost smiling. Can I think about it? Of course. Take all the time you need, and Lydia, thank you for telling me the truth, for saving me from making the biggest mistake of my life. After we hung up, I added Brandon's evidence file to my growing collection. The text messages between Madison and my mother were particularly damning. Their casual discussion of landing the Whitfield fortune read like a playbook for gold diggers. My phone immediately rang again, Madison's name on the screen. I let it go to voicemail, but she called right back. On the fifth call, I finally answered. "How could you?" she screamed without preamble. "You've ruined everything. My whole life is destroyed because of your jealousy." "Madison, stop. I know about the pregnancy. I know the timeline doesn't match Brandon, and I know you've been running cons on men since college." The screaming stopped. When she spoke again, her voice was small, almost childlike. "How do you know about the baby?" "Because I handle your medical insurance claims. Remember, you had me update your coverage 2 months ago. The obstetrics claims started in January. You were already pregnant when you met Brandon." "It could be his baby," she said desperately. "The dates are close enough." "DNA tests don't lie, Madison. And when Brandon demands one, which he will, what then? Were you going to try to pass off another man's child as his?" "You don't understand," she whispered. "You've never understood. You were the smart one. I was just the pretty one. Do you know what that's like? Having your own father tell you that your only value is in your face and body, that your job is to marry well because you'll never amount to anything on your own." For the first time that night, I felt a flicker of sympathy for my sister. "Dad said that to you?" "All the time. From the time I was 12. Mom would dress me up like a doll, parade me at country club events, point out which boys came from good families. They turned me into this Lydia, and now you've taken away the only thing I was ever good at." "You could have been good at other things. You're not stupid, Madison. You just never tried because they never expected you to." "Easy for you to say. You got to go to law school, have a career, make your own money. They wouldn't let me major in business like I wanted. Said it would make me less appealing to potential husbands. So I studied art history and learned to be decorative." The sympathy grew, but I couldn't let it change my course. "That's tragic, Madison. Truly. But it doesn't excuse what you've done. The men you've hurt, the lies you've told the baby you were going to trick Brandon into raising. What am I supposed to do now?" The desperation in her voice was real. I'm 26, pregnant, publicly humiliated, and completely cut off. Brandon was my last chance at the life I was trained for. "You could try something revolutionary. Get a job. Raise your child honestly. Build a life based on truth instead of manipulation." She laughed bitterly. "With what skills? What references? Who's going to hire the Dallas social pariah with a viral video of family dysfunction? Besides, you're about to destroy Dad's business and Mom's inheritance. There won't be any family money left to fall back on." She was right, of course. My actions tonight would leave scorched earth where the Walker Empire once stood, but I couldn't bring myself to care. "Then you'll learn to survive on your own, like I did, like millions of people do every day without trust funds or family connections." "I hate you," she said quietly. "I've always hated you. Perfect Lydia with her principles and her judgment. But at least before tonight, I thought you loved me despite everything. Now I know you're just as cold as the rest of them." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, her words echoing. Was I cold, or was I finally free? Time would tell, but I still had one more call to make, and this one would be the most satisfying of all. By 11:30, exhaustion was setting in. My jaw throbbed despite the ibuprofen I'd taken, and the emotional toll of the evening was catching up. But I had one more call to make, one more piece of the puzzle to set in motion. Harold Stevenson answered immediately as if he'd been waiting by his phone. "Lydia, I'm glad you called back. I've been reviewing the estate files since we spoke earlier, and the situation is worse than I initially thought." "How much worse?" "Your mother hasn't just redirected the charity payments. She's been systematically liquidating assets that were supposed to be held in trust. The art collection your grandmother specifically wanted donated to the Dallas Museum, sold through private dealers. The vacation home in Colorado that was meant to be maintained for family use transferred to a shell company and mortgaged." I sank into my desk chair, adding this information to my notes. "How did she manage all this without your knowledge?" "She's been very clever about it. As primary executor, she had broad powers, and she always provided documentation that seemed legitimate. Charity receipts that turned out to be forged, maintenance invoices for the Colorado house that were actually mortgage payments. It wasn't until the Children's Medical Foundation called that I started pulling threads. How much has she stolen in total? Between the redirected charity payments, the sold assets, and the mortgage property, close to $800,000. And that's just what I can prove so far. I closed my eyes. Grandma Rose had worked her entire life to build that wealth, living frugally, investing wisely. She'd wanted her legacy to help children in need, support veterans, promote literacy. Instead, it had funded my mother's shopping sprees and country club lifestyle. Harold, I need to tell you something. What happened at the party tonight, it's just the beginning. I've already reported my father's tax evasion to the IRS. The FBI is investigating his construction company for fraud. By Monday, the Walker family is going to be radioactive. Are you prepared for that? Lydia, I've been practicing estate law for 40 years. In that time, I've seen every kind of family dysfunction imaginable. But what your mother has done, stealing from charities in her dead mother's name, that's a special kind of evil. There's more, I said, remembering something that had nagged at me. The timing of my grandmother's death. She was recovering well from her hip surgery, then suddenly took a turn. Mom was the only one with her that night. Are you suggesting? I don't know what I'm suggesting, but Grandma Rose was about to change her will. She told me the week before she died that she was disappointed in how materialistic Mom had become. She was planning to leave everything directly to the charities, cutting out the family entirely. Harold's sharp intake of breath told me he hadn't known this. She never mentioned that to me. She was going to call you that Monday. She died Sunday night. Mom found her Monday morning and immediately took control as executor under the existing will. My God, Lydia, if there's even a possibility that your mother hastened your grandmother's death, is there any way to prove it now she was cremated quickly? Mom said it was what Grandma wanted, but I never saw any documentation of that wish. I'll pull the medical records, talk to the nurses who were on duty. If there's anything suspicious, we'll find it. But Lydia, this goes beyond estate fraud. This could be murder. The word hung between us, heavy and final. Murder. Could my mother really have done that? Killed her own mother for money? There's something else, Harold said after a moment. Your grandmother left something for you specifically. A sealed envelope with instructions that I was to give it to you only if you ever asked about your biological father, or if, and I quote, the family showed their true colors. My heart stopped. You have information about my biological father. I have an envelope. I've never opened it as per Rose's instructions. But given what happened tonight, I think it's time you received it. Can you come by my office tomorrow? I'll be there first thing. Actually, Harold reconsidered. Given everything that's happening, perhaps I should bring it to you tonight. Your family is going to be desperate when they realize what you're doing. It might not be safe for you to be out in public places where they could confront you. He was right. My father had already proven he was capable of violence. Tyler was unstable on his best days, and my mother, if she really had killed Grandma Rose, was capable of anything. I appreciate that, Harold. I'll text you my address. While waiting for Harold, I continued organizing my evidence. The estate fraud documents went into their own folder, cross-referenced with the tax implications. Mom had failed to report the stolen money as income-adding tax evasion to her growing list of crimes. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You think you've won, but you have no idea who you're messing with. Back off now or you'll regret it. Tyler. Of course he'd try to threaten me. I screenshotted the message and added it to my evidence file. If he thought anonymous threats would scare me, he'd severely underestimated how much tonight had changed me. Harold arrived within 40 minutes looking every bit the distinguished elder lawyer despite the late hour. He handed me a thick manila envelope sealed with wax bearing my grandmother's initials. Before you open that, he said gently, I want you to know that Rose loved you deeply. Whatever's in there, whatever truths it contains, never doubt that you were the light of her life." My hands trembled as I broke the seal. Inside were several documents and a handwritten letter in my grandmother's distinctive script. "My dearest Lydia," it began. "If you're reading this, then the facade has finally crumbled, and you've seen the truth about our family. I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to tell you this while I was alive, but I was selfish. I wanted to keep you close, and I feared the truth would drive you away. Your biological father is Alexander Chen, now a federal judge in the Northern District of Texas. He and your mother had an affair while she was engaged to Robert. When she became pregnant, she convinced Robert the child was his, though he suspected the truth all these years. Alexander doesn't know you exist. Patricia threatened to destroy his career if he ever tried to contact her again. He was young, ambitious, and chose his future over fighting for a child he didn't even know about. I've included his contact information photos from when he and Patricia were together and a DNA test I had conducted when you were 16. I told you it was for a genealogy project. Remember, the results confirm what I always suspected. You are not Robert Walker's daughter. But more importantly, you are not defined by either man. You are brilliant, kind, principled, and strong. You are everything I hoped you would become, despite the family you were born into. There's one more thing. I've left a separate inheritance for you, one your mother doesn't know about. Harold has the details. It's not much, just enough to ensure you can always walk away if needed. Tonight, perhaps you need it. All my love, Grandma Rose. I looked up at Harold through tears. She knew everything. She was a remarkable woman, sharp until the end, which is why her sudden decline— "We need to investigate her death," I said firmly. "She deserves justice." "I'll start first thing tomorrow. As for the separate inheritance, it's a trust worth approximately $500,000. She set it up through a different law firm to keep it hidden from your mother. The funds are available whenever you need them." After Harold left, I sat alone in my apartment, surrounded by evidence of my family's crimes and the truth about my origins. Alexander Chen, a federal judge, my father. I pulled up his public bio on the court website. Graduated Harvard Law, appointed to the bench 10 years ago, married with 2 daughters, a respected jurist known for his integrity and fairness. Everything Robert Walker wasn't. The resemblance was subtle, but there. The same sharp cheekbones, the same intelligent eyes. I wondered what my life might have been like if Patricia had chosen differently, if she'd been honest from the beginning. But that way lay madness. I couldn't change the past. I could only control what happened next. I made one final call that night to James Chen at the FBI. No relation to Alexander, just a cosmic coincidence. "Ms. Walker, thank you for calling. Agent Martinez has briefed me on your situation. We'd very much like to meet with you tomorrow. I'll be available after my meeting with the IRS. But Agent Chen, you should know my family will likely try to retaliate once they realize I'm cooperating with law enforcement. We can arrange protection if needed. Ms. Walker, your father's company has been on our radar for some time. We believe he's connected to a larger construction fraud ring, possibly with ties to organized crime. Your cooperation could break this wide open." Organized crime. Of course. Why be a small-time criminal when you could go big? "I'll bring everything I have," I promised. "Ms. Walker, I'm sorry about what happened to you tonight. Family betrayal is uniquely painful, but what you're doing takes incredible courage." After hanging up, I finally allowed myself to feel the full weight of the evening. In 12 hours, I'd gone from dutiful daughter to family destroyer, from insider to whistleblower, from victim to avenging angel. My phone showed over 100 missed calls now, messages from family, from mutual friends, from colleagues who'd seen the video. Tomorrow I'd deal with the fallout. Tonight I just needed to rest. I took one last look at my grandmother's letter before heading to bed. Her words echoed, "You are not defined by either man." She was right. I wasn't defined by Robert Walker's rejection or Alexander Chen's absence. I was defined by my choices, my actions, my integrity. and tomorrow I would choose justice. Sunday morning arrived with the insistent buzzing of my phone. I'd finally fallen asleep around 3 a.m. emotionally drained, but oddly at peace with my decisions. The display showed 17 missed calls from my mother, 12 from Tyler, and 23 from various unknown numbers that were probably Dad's construction company phones. I ignored them all and started my morning routine. Shower coffee, protein shake since my jaw still hurt too much for solid food. The bruise had bloomed into a spectacular purple-green masterpiece that no amount of concealer could hide. At exactly 9 a.m., my phone rang with a call from Patricia. This time I answered. "Lydia, we need to talk." Her voice had lost its usual commanding tone, replaced by something I'd never heard before: fear. "There's nothing to discuss. Your father received some very disturbing mail this morning. A notice from the IRS about an audit. Lydia, please tell me you didn't report years of tax evasion and fraud. Yes, I did, and that's just the beginning. You ungrateful little—" She caught herself audibly trying to maintain control. "Lydia, sweetheart, you're upset about last night. We all are. Things got out of hand and your father regrets his actions. But destroying our family won't undo what happened." "Our family?" I laughed. "You mean the family that revealed I'm a bastard they've tolerated for appearances? The family where Dad punches me and you laugh. That family is already destroyed. I'm just handling the legal documentation. Think about what you're doing. If your father's business fails, hundreds of people lose their jobs. Is your petty revenge worth destroying innocent lives? Funny how you care about innocent lives now. Did you care about the innocent children who won't get medical treatment because you stole their charity funding? Did you care about Grandma Rose when you were stealing her legacy?" Silence. Then, "I don't know what you're talking about." Harold Stevenson called. "The Children's Medical Foundation noticed they haven't received their quarterly payments. Neither have the other charities. That's fraud, Mom. Criminal fraud." "You're co-executor," she snapped. "If there are irregularities, you're equally responsible. Except I documented every time you overruled my objections, every time you processed payments without my signature, every forged receipt you submitted. I've been keeping records, Mom, just like you taught me. Document everything, remember." A car door slammed outside. Through my window, I could see a black town car in the building's circular drive. My father emerged, followed by Tyler and 2 men I recognized as his construction foremen. "They're here, aren't they?" I said. "Dad and Tyler. Did you really think showing up at my building would change anything?" "We just want to talk, as a family." The doorman has their photos from the news coverage. Security has been instructed not to let them in. If they try to force their way up, I'll call the police and add trespassing to Dad's growing list of charges. I watched as my father argued with the doorman, his face growing redder by the second. Tyler paced behind him, gesticulating wildly. One of the foremen actually kicked the building's glass door, earning a stern warning from security. "This is insane," Patricia hissed. "We're your family." "No, you're criminals who happen to raise me. There's a difference." My phone beeped with another call. The display showed Madison's name. "I need to go. Tell Dad if he doesn't leave in the next 5 minutes, I'm calling 911. I switched to Madison's call. "What?" "Lydia, please." She was crying again, but it sounded different from her usual manipulative tears. "I'm at the hospital. I'm bleeding. Something's wrong with the baby." Despite everything concern flashed through me. "Which hospital?" "Presbyterian. I don't have anyone else to call. Brandon blocked my number. Mom and Dad are at your building. Tyler won't answer. Please, I'm scared." I glanced out the window again. My father was now shouting at his phone while being firmly escorted back to his car by building security. "I'll come," I heard myself saying. "But Madison, this doesn't change anything." "I know, I don't want to be alone." I threw on jeans and a sweater, grabbed my purse, and headed for the parking garage. My phone rang constantly as I drove to Presbyterian Hospital. Unknown numbers, probably reporters who'd gotten my information. The video had over 1 million views now, according to the notification I'd glimpsed. At the hospital, I found Madison in the emergency department, looking smaller and more vulnerable than I'd ever seen her. Her designer dress from yesterday was wrinkled and stained her face puffy from crying. "The stress," she said as soon as she saw me. "The doctor said it might be from the stress. They're running tests." I sat beside her, maintaining emotional distance even as I offered physical presence. "Have you called the baby's father?" "Morrison won't answer. His wife probably saw the video like everyone else. She'll know the timeline, know the baby is his." "So it is the professor's—" Madison nodded miserably. "I was already pregnant when I met Brandon. I thought I could make it work. The dates were close enough. No one would have questioned it. Except you would have known. The child would have eventually known. Living a lie that big destroys people, Madison. Like Mom's lie destroyed you." I thought about Grandma Rose's letter about Alexander Chen somewhere in Dallas, unaware he had a third daughter. Yes, exactly like that. A nurse called Madison's name. "You can bring your sister," she said. Madison looked at me pleadingly. Despite everything, I followed her back. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of tests, ultrasounds, and worried medical professionals. The baby was in distress but stable. Madison was ordered on immediate bed rest and would likely need to be admitted for observation. As we waited for a room assignment, Madison's phone buzzed. She looked at it and paled. "What is it?" She handed me the phone, a text from our father. "Family meeting at the house, 1 hour. This affects Madison too. If Lydia isn't there, we proceed without her." "I should go," Madison said weakly. "Maybe I can talk sense into them." "You're on mandatory bed rest. You're not going anywhere." "But what if they're planning something? What if they try to run—" I hadn't considered that possibility. With the IRS audit notice and whatever other official communications had arrived, my parents might be desperate enough to flee. Did they have offshore accounts? Hidden assets. "I'll go," I decided. "You stay here and take care of yourself and the baby. Lydia, be careful. Dad's never been violent before last night, but now, I don't know what he's capable of." Neither did I, but I needed to see this through. The drive to my childhood home in Highland Park took 20 minutes. The sprawling colonial looked the same as always, perfectly manicured lawns, seasonal decorations tastefully arranged. You'd never know the ugliness that lived inside. Several cars filled the circular driveway. Dad's Bentley, Mom's Mercedes, Tyler's Porsche, and 2 vehicles I didn't recognize. I parked on the street and approached cautiously. The front door was unlocked. I could hear voices from the formal living room, animated and angry. I paused in the foyer, listening. "Flee the country is our only option," Tyler's voice high with panic. "Don't be ridiculous," our mother snapped. "We're not criminals." "We are now—" That was Dad. Thanks to that ungrateful bitch. 47 million in assets frozen as of an hour ago. 47 million the FBI raided my office. They have everything. My blood ran cold. The FBI had moved faster than expected. They must have had warrants ready, waiting for someone to give them probable cause. "We can fight this," an unfamiliar male voice said. "I've gotten bigger fish than you off worse charges." "With what money?" Dad demanded. "They've frozen everything. Business accounts, personal accounts, even the kids' trust funds. We can't even pay you." "I'm sure we can work something out," the voice replied smoothly. "Perhaps a claim against your wayward daughter for violating attorney-client privilege." That got my attention. I stepped into the room, making my presence known. "There was no attorney-client privilege. I never represented any of you in criminal matters." The room erupted. Dad lunged toward me but was held back by one of the unfamiliar men, apparently lawyers. Mom shrieked something incoherent. Tyler threw his whiskey glass at the wall. "How dare you show your face here?" Dad roared. "After what you've done—" "After what I've done," I stood my ground, though every instinct screamed to flee. "You committed crimes. You stole money. You forged my signature. You used my bar license for fraud. All I did was tell the truth." "The truth?" Mom laughed bitterly. You want truth. Here's truth. I should have gotten rid of you when I had the chance. That night in the hospital when you were born, Robert begged me to give you up for adoption. Said he'd never be able to look at you without seeing my betrayal, but I kept you out of guilt, my biggest mistake. The words should have hurt, but I felt nothing. They'd already shown me who they were. Speaking of truth, I said calmly, let's talk about Grandma Rose. Let's talk about how she was recovering fine from hip surgery until you spent the night with her. Let's talk about how she died 12 hours before she was going to change her will and cut you all out. The room went silent. Mom's face drained of color. What are you implying? She whispered. I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. Harold is pulling the medical records. The FBI is very interested in the timeline, especially since you had her cremated so quickly against her known wishes. You're insane, Tyler said, but his voice lacked conviction. He was looking at our mother with new eyes. Am I? Tell me, Mom, what did you give her that night? Her pain medication? Something stronger? Or did you just increase the dose until her heart gave out? Shut up, Mom screamed. Shut your mouth, you don't know anything. But her reaction told me everything. The way Dad stepped away from her, the way Tyler's face crumbled, the way even the lawyers exchanged uncomfortable glances. My God, Dad breathed. Patricia, tell me you didn't. She was going to leave everything to charity, Mom shrieked. Everything $3 million that should have gone to her family, and she was going to give it to strangers. I couldn't let her do that to us. The confession hung in the air like a bomb. One of the lawyers immediately pulled out his phone, probably calling for help. The other grabbed his briefcase and headed for the door, wanting no part of this. You killed her, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. You killed your own mother for money. I put her to sleep. Mom was coming undone, years of careful control shattering. She was old, she was in pain, she would have died eventually anyway. I just hastened it, made it peaceful. That's not murder, that's mercy. That's murder, the remaining lawyer said quietly, and you just confessed in front of witnesses. The room exploded into chaos. Dad stumbled to the bar, pouring himself a drink with shaking hands. Tyler collapsed onto the sofa, head in his hands. Mom stood in the center of it all, looking around wildly as if searching for an escape that didn't exist. Then we heard the sirens. You called the cops, Tyler accused, jumping to his feet. No, I said, realizing what must have happened. But I'm guessing one of your lawyers did. Through the window, I could see multiple police cars pulling into the driveway, followed by unmarked federal vehicles. The FBI had been monitoring the house, waiting for the family to gather. This is your fault, Dad roared, throwing his glass at me. I dodged and it shattered against the doorframe. You destroyed us. No, I said quietly. You destroyed yourselves. I just stopped enabling it. The front door burst open. FBI agents flooded in, weapons drawn, shouting commands. Everyone was ordered to the ground. I complied immediately, my legal training kicking in. As they handcuffed my parents, I heard one agent reading Mom her rights. Patricia Walker, you're under arrest for murder in the first-degree fraud embezzlement. Dad was arrested for tax evasion, fraud, money laundering, and racketeering. The charges went on and on. Tyler, to my surprise, was also arrested. As they let him out, an agent mentioned something about drug trafficking. I remained on the floor until an agent helped me up. It was James Chen, the FBI contact I'd spoken with the night before. Ms. Walker, are you all right? I'm fine, I said, though I wasn't sure that was true. I just watched my entire family get arrested, heard my mother confess to murdering my grandmother. Fine seemed inadequate. We've been recording everything from outside, he said quietly. Your mother's confession, your father's threats. You did well to come here. I didn't know you'd be watching. We've had the house under surveillance since your call. When we saw the family gathering, we knew something significant would happen. We just didn't expect a murder confession. Neither had I. Even suspecting it, hearing Patricia admit to killing Grandma Rose shattered something inside me. The woman who'd raised me, however coldly, was a murderer. What happens now? I asked. Now we process them, build our cases, and prepare for what will likely be the most high-profile trial Dallas has seen in years. We'll need your continued cooperation." "You'll have it." As the last police car pulled away, I stood alone in the house where I'd grown up. Family photos lined the walls, smiling faces hiding decades of lies and cruelty. I walked through the rooms, seeing them with new eyes. In Dad's office, FBI agents had left chaos in their wake of searching for evidence. Empty file cabinets gaped open, hard drives, removed papers scattered. They'd been thorough. My phone buzzed. "Madison, what happened?" "The news is saying Mom and Dad were arrested." I called her back. "It's true. Mom confessed to killing Grandma Rose. Dad's charged with multiple federal crimes. Tyler, too." Silence. Then, "Mom killed Grandma to prevent her from changing her will." Oh my God, Lydia, what are we going to do?" I looked around the office where Robert Walker had built his criminal empire, where he'd forged my signature and destroyed my trust. "We're going to survive," I said. Separately, honestly, but we're going to survive. "The baby. How am I supposed to raise a baby with our family destroyed?" "The same way millions of single mothers do, with strength, determination, and help from people who actually care about you." "Do you care about me?" Her voice was small, vulnerable. "After everything?" I thought about it honestly. "I don't know, Madison. Maybe someday. But right now, I need to care about myself first. I've spent 28 years putting this family ahead of my own well-being. That ends now." After hanging up, I walked through the house one last time. In my old bedroom, preserved exactly as I'd left it for law school, I found a photo of Grandma Rose and me at my college graduation. Her proud smile, her warm eyes, her gentle hands on my shoulders. "I'm sorry," I whispered to the photo. "I'm sorry I didn't protect you, but I'm getting justice for you now." I took the photo and left everything else behind. The house, the memories, the family that never really was. As I drove away, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, assuming it was another reporter, but something made me pick up. "Ms. Walker, this is Judge Alexander Chen. I believe we need to talk." My biological father. The final secret revealed the last thread connecting me to this twisted family. "Yes," I said, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. "I believe we do." I met Alexander Chen at a small coffee shop in Uptown, far from the Highland Park drama. He'd suggested somewhere private, discreet understanding that my face was now recognizable from the viral video. He was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with his back to the wall, a habit I recognized from my own safety-conscious positioning in public spaces. The resemblance was stronger in person. The same angular jawline, the same way of holding his shoulders, the same careful observation of surroundings. He stood when he saw me, and I noticed we were exactly the same height. "Lydia," he said simply, "thank you for meeting me." I sat across from him, ordering coffee I didn't want just to have something to do with my hands. He studied my bruised face with judicial calm, though I caught the tightening of his jaw. "How did you know to call me?" I asked. "Your grandmother's attorney, Harold Stevenson, contacted me this morning. He said you'd learned the truth and thought it was time I did as well." He paused, choosing words carefully. "I want you to know that I had no idea you existed. If I had known, you'd have what fought my mother destroyed your career before it began." He had the grace not to offer false promises. "I don't know. I was 24, fresh out of law school, starting a clerkship with Justice Patterson. Your mother was engaged to Robert Walker from a prominent family. When she ended our relationship, she said it was because she'd chosen security over passion. I was heartbroken, but accepted it." "She never told you she was pregnant?" "No, though looking back, the timing of her wedding to Robert being moved up should have been a clue." He pulled out a folder. "I've spent the morning researching pulling old records. You were born exactly 38 weeks after our last night together." I stared at the documents he'd compiled, medical records, calendar pages, even old photos of him and Patricia at some law school function. He'd been handsome then, full of promise and ambition. She'd been beautiful, calculating even in those old photos. "Why did she choose Robert over you?" I asked. "Money, stability, status. The Walker family was everything mine wasn't. I was the son of immigrants working 3 jobs to pay for law school. Robert was heir to a construction empire. For Patricia, it wasn't even a choice." But she kept me, despite Robert knowing the truth. Alexander's expression darkened. "Having met Robert Walker in court several times over the years, I suspect he kept you as leverage. As long as Patricia had a daily reminder of her betrayal, she'd never challenge him. You were a weapon in their marriage, not a daughter." The truth of it hit like another punch. I'd always wondered why Robert kept me if he hated me so much. Now I knew. I was Patricia's scarlet letter, her permanent punishment. "Did you ever try to contact her again?" "Once. About 15 years ago, I'd just been appointed to the federal bench. I saw her at a judicial fundraiser. I asked if she was happy. She laughed and said happiness was for people who couldn't afford better. Then she warned me never to approach her again or she'd destroy my career with harassment allegations. She's good at threats and following through on them, apparently. She murdered my grandmother." Alexander's coffee cup rattled as he set it down. "The confession I heard about. It's all over the legal community. Patricia Walker admitting to matricide while the FBI was recording. Your family's collapse is rather spectacular." "It's not my family," I said firmly. "Not anymore." "No," he agreed. "I suppose it's not." He studied me with those familiar eyes. "Harold Stevenson says you're a brilliant lawyer. Top of your class at SMU, impressive record at Thompson & Associates. You got that from both sides, you know. Patricia was brilliant too before she chose to weaponize it." "I don't want anything from you," I said quickly. "I'm not looking for a father or money or connections. I just wanted to meet you to understand where I came from." "I appreciate that, but I'd like to know you if you're willing. I have 2 daughters, Sophie and Emma. They're 16 and 14. I told my wife about you this morning. She was shocked but supportive. The girls are curious about their half-sister." A family. A real family that might actually want me. The concept was so foreign I didn't know how to process it. "Can I think about it?" "Of course. Take all the time you need." He slid a card across the table. "This has my personal cell. When you're ready, if you're ready, call me." We sat in silence for a moment. Then he asked, "What will you do now with your career?" "The Whitfield family has offered me a position. Seems appropriate considering I saved their son from marrying into a crime family." A small smile crossed his face. "Brandon Whitfield is appearing in my court next month on a complex contracts case. He's good, ethical. You could do worse than learning from that firm." "You know him?" "I know everyone in Dallas legal circles. It's not that big a community at our level." He hesitated. "I also know you'll likely face some backlash. The video, your family's arrest your role in it. Not everyone will see you as the hero of this story." "I'm not trying to be a hero, I'm trying to survive." "Sometimes those are the same thing." He glanced at his watch. "I have to get to court. But Lydia, I want you to know something. What you did took incredible courage. Standing up to family, especially abusive family, is perhaps the hardest thing a person can do. I'm proud of you, even if I have no right to be." After he left, I sat alone in the coffee shop processing. In 48 hours, I'd lost the only family I'd ever known and potentially gained a new one. I'd gone from being Robert Walker's unwanted bastard to Alexander Chen's unknown daughter. My phone buzzed with messages. Jennifer Martinez from the IRS confirming our Monday meeting, James Chen from the FBI scheduling depositions, Harold Stevenson with updates on the estate fraud investigation, Brandon Whitfield asking if I'd made a decision about the job offer. But one message stood out. Tyler from a federal holding facility. "I hope you're happy. You've destroyed everything. When I get out, you'll pay for this." I screenshotted it and forwarded it to the FBI. Then I blocked his number. He was right about one thing. I had destroyed everything. The Walker family empire built on lies and crime was rubble. But from rubble, new things could grow. I called Brandon. "I'll take the position." "Excellent. Can you start Monday?" "I'll have federal interviews Monday, Tuesday." "Tuesday works, Lydia. I need to warn you. Some of our clients might be uncomfortable given the publicity. We'll weather it together, but it won't be easy. After this weekend, I think I can handle uncomfortable." That evening, I returned to my apartment to find flowers at my door. Not from family or colleagues, but from Madison's doctor. The card read, "Your sister and nephew are stable. She wanted you to know it's a boy. She's naming him after your grandmother, Ross." I held the card feeling something crack inside my chest. Ross, for Grandma Rose. Madison's way of honoring the woman our mother had murdered. My laptop chimed with an email from Harold. He'd found more evidence of financial crimes, including a life insurance policy on Grandma Rose that Patricia had increased 6 months before her death. The police were adding insurance fraud to the murder charges. Another email, this one from a journalist at the Dallas Morning News. They wanted my side of the story a chance to control the narrative. I deleted it. The truth would come out in court. I didn't need to perform my pain for public consumption. As night fell, I stood at my windows looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, my parents sat in federal custody, their empire crumbling. Tyler faced his own demons in a cell. Madison lay in a hospital bed preparing to raise a fatherless child. And somewhere, Alexander Chen was having dinner with his family, probably explaining how he'd just discovered a 28-year-old daughter. I wondered what Sophie and Emma thought about suddenly having an older sister. I wondered if his wife truly was as supportive as he claimed. I wondered if I'd ever have the courage to find out. My reflection in the window showed the bruise fading but still visible. Battle scars from a war I'd never wanted to fight. But sometimes war comes whether you want it or not. Sometimes the only choice is whether to be a victim or a survivor. I'd chosen survivor. Whatever came next, whatever trials and depositions and family revelations awaited, I'd face them as myself. Not as Robert Walker's unwanted daughter or Patricia's shameful secret, or even as Alexander Chen's surprise offspring. Just as Lydia Walker, attorney at Law Speaker of Truth, survivor of a family that had tried to destroy her and failed. The city lights twinkled below, full of possibility. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, for the first time in my life, I was truly free. Tuesday morning arrived with the kind of crisp October weather that made Dallas feel almost optimistic. I dressed carefully for my first day at Whitfield & Associates, choosing a conservative navy suit that covered the fading bruise on my jaw. The media circus had died down slightly, though my phone still showed dozens of interview requests I continued to ignore. I was reviewing FBI deposition notes when my phone rang. Unknown number, but the caller ID showed it was from the Federal Detention Center. "Lydia, it's me. Please don't hang up." Tyler's voice was different. Gone was the sneering arrogance, replaced by something raw and desperate. "You have 2 minutes," I said. "They're saying I could get 20 years. 20 years. For what, some party drugs? This is insane." "It's not just party drugs, Tyler. The FBI mentioned trafficking. What did you do?" Silence. Then it started small, just getting stuff for friends at the club. But it grew. Dad's money helped expand the operation. "You were using Dad's embezzled funds to run drugs." I didn't know it was embezzled. He said it was profit from side investments. Said as long as I kept it quiet and gave him a cut, he didn't care what I did. I closed my eyes. Of course. Robert Walker, Father of the Year, enabling his son's drug dealing for a percentage. How much, Tyler? How big was the operation? Big enough that the feds are calling it a RICO case. They say I was moving product through Dad's construction sites, using his workers as mules. My God. "You have to help me." His voice cracked. "You're a lawyer. You know people. Please, Lydia. I'm sorry about what I said at the party. I'm sorry about everything. We're still family." "We were never family, Tyler. We were just people who lived in the same house." "Don't say that. Please. I know I was cruel to you. But I was just following Dad's lead. He hated you, so I did too. I was a kid trying to earn his approval. You're 25. You haven't been a kid for a long time. I'll die in prison. Do you understand that a rich kid like me, I'll be dead within a year? His fear was palpable, and for a moment I felt the ghost of sisterly concern. Then I remembered him leading the mockery at Madison's party, clapping, while my blood dripped onto designer carpet. I can't help you, Tyler. Even if I wanted to, which I don't, I'm a witness for the prosecution. It would be a conflict of interest. You cold bitch, he snarled, the mask slipping. You planned this whole thing, didn't you? Knew exactly what to say at that party to make everything explode. Goodbye, Tyler. Wait, there's something else. Something about Mom and Dad you don't know. About their business with the Kozlov family. I paused. The Russian developers, they're not developers. They're Bratva, Russian mob. Dad's been washing money for them through the construction company, hundreds of millions. If you testified about the family finances, you put a target on your back. They don't let witnesses live. My blood chilled. You're lying, trying to scare me into helping you. Check Dad's files for Project Volga. Check the payments from Kozlov Holdings. Then tell me I'm lying. His voice dropped. They already sent someone to see Madison at the hospital, asking questions about what you know. The line went dead. I stood frozen, phone in hand. Russian mob money laundering. How deep did Robert's crimes go? I called James Chen at the FBI immediately. Tyler just called. He says Dad was laundering money for Russian organized crime, the Kozlov family. We're aware of the connection, James said carefully. It's part of why we moved so quickly on the arrests. Ms. Walker, we need to discuss protective custody. Are you serious? Your brother isn't wrong about the threat level. The Kozlovs have significant interests that your father's arrest jeopardizes. Your testimony could expose their entire operation. Why didn't you tell me this before? We're still mapping the full network. But yes, you should be concerned. Can you come to the federal building? We need to review security measures. I looked at my Whitfield and Associates welcome packet. My first day at a new job, a fresh start, and now I had Russian mobsters potentially wanting me dead. I'll be there in an hour. The FBI building in Dallas was a fortress of glass and concrete. James Chen met me at security with 2 other agents, their faces grim. We've been monitoring communications since the arrests. He began once we were in a secure conference room. The Kozlovs are definitely concerned. Your father was their primary money launderer in the Southwest. Through his construction company, they cleaned nearly $300 million in drug and human trafficking proceeds. Human trafficking. Your father's company sponsored work visas for Eastern European laborers. Many were trafficked persons forced to work off fictitious debts. The construction sites were essentially slave labor camps with a legitimate facade. I felt sick. Every horrible revelation about Robert Walker somehow managed to get worse. We didn't just employ regular workers. There were legitimate employees, too. The trafficked persons were kept separate, housed in company barracks, threatened with deportation if they complained. Your father knew. He facilitated it all for a 15% cut. And now they think I know about all this. Your brother has been talking to anyone who'll listen, trying to make deals. He told his cellmate about warning you. That cellmate has connections to the Kozlovs. Word travels fast in federal detention. One of the other agents, a woman named Sarah Martinez, leaned forward. We can offer you witness protection. New identity, new location, completely fresh start. I just accepted a job. I'm testifying in multiple cases. I can't disappear. Then we need to discuss security measures. Safe house, protective detail, varied routines. This isn't a game, Ms. Walker. The Kozlovs have killed witnesses before. I thought about Alexander Chen's daughters, about the new family I'd just discovered. Would my existence put them in danger too? There's something else, I said. I recently learned about my biological father. He's a federal judge. His family. James Chen's face went pale. Judge Alexander Chen is your father. This complicates things significantly. The Kozlovs would see targeting a federal judge's family as a major escalation, but they might risk it if they're desperate enough. I need to warn him. We'll handle that. For now, we need to focus on your immediate safety. They spent the next 2 hours outlining security protocols, varied routes to work, panic buttons, code words, the safe house address. It felt surreal, like something out of a movie rather than my life. As we wrapped up, James asked, "Is there anything else Tyler might have hidden? Any other criminal enterprises we should know about?" I thought about my brother, the golden boy who'd gotten everything handed to him and still chose crime. Check his girlfriend, Natasha. She's Russian, introduced him to the club scene. I always thought it was odd how Dad welcomed her when he usually hated Tyler's girlfriends. Sarah Martinez made a note. Natasha Volkov, she's Dmitry Kozlov's niece. Another piece clicked into place. Tyler hadn't stumbled into drug dealing. He'd been recruited, groomed, used as another connection between the Walker family and organized crime. He never had a chance, I said quietly. Dad sold him to the mob just like he sold everything else. Your brother made his choices, James reminded me. He could have walked away. But could he, raised by Robert Walker, taught that money mattered more than morals shown by example, that crime paid as long as you didn't get caught? Tyler was weak, cruel, and selfish, but he was also a product of his environment. What happens to him now depends on his cooperation. If he testifies against the Kozlovs, we might recommend a reduced sentence, but that would put him in even more danger than you. I left the FBI building with a security detail, 2 agents who would shadow me until other arrangements were finalized. My new life at Whitfield and Associates would begin under guard, my fresh start, tainted by the long reach of family crimes. At the hospital, I found Madison surrounded by security. Off-duty police officers Brandon had hired, she explained. Tyler called, she said without preamble. Told me about the Russians. Is it true? All of it. Dad was laundering money for human traffickers. We're both potential targets now. She looked down at her swollen belly. My son will be born into this nightmare. His grandfather a monster, his father a predator, his family destroyed. What kind of life is that? A life where he learns from our mistakes, where he grows up knowing the truth instead of lies, where he has a chance to be better than us. Will you help me raise him? The question surprised us both. I know I have no right to ask, but I don't know how to be a mother. I was trained to be a trophy wife, not a parent. I don't know how to be an aunt either, I admitted. But maybe we can figure it out together. She reached for my hand, and for the first time in our lives, the gesture felt genuine rather than performative. The FBI wants me to testify too, she said. About the money transfers, I witnessed the meetings with Russian investors at the house. I'm scared, Lydia. So am I. But we're scarier than we think. We survived Robert and Patricia Walker. We can survive this, too. That evening, I finally made it to my apartment under escort. The agents did a security sweep while I packed essentials for the safe house. My new life would start in hiding, but at least it would start. As I packed, I found the photo of Grandma Rose I'd taken from the house. Her wise eyes seemed to look right through me. I'm trying, I whispered to her image. I'm trying to make this right. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You should have helped your brother. Family is everything. Even blood spilled in the name of family is sacred. You will learn this lesson soon. K. K for Kozlov, presumably. I showed it to the agents who immediately began tracing procedures. Time to go, one said urgently. Now. I grabbed my bags and Grandma Rose's photo. As we rushed to the elevator, I thought about Tyler in his cell finally facing consequences. About Madison in her hospital bed preparing for motherhood alone. About parents who'd sold their souls and their children for money. The Walker family empire hadn't just crumbled. It had detonated, sending shrapnel in all directions. And I was standing at ground zero trying to dodge the pieces while building something new from the ashes. But I would build it. With or without Russian threats, with or without family support, with or without Tyler's warnings from behind bars. I would build a life based on truth instead of lies, integrity instead of crime, courage instead of fear. The elevator descended toward an uncertain future, but for the first time in 28 years, it was my future to shape. And that despite everything felt like victory. The safe house was a modest 2-bedroom apartment in North Dallas, far from the Highland Park circles where everyone knew the Walker name. I'd been there 3 days working remotely for Whitfield and Associates while FBI agents monitored my every move. The normalcy of contract review and legal research felt surreal against the backdrop of protective custody. On Thursday evening, my secure phone rang, the hospital. "Ms. Walker, your sister is asking for you. She's had an episode." I looked at Agent Sarah Martinez, who was reviewing security footage on her laptop. "I need to go to the hospital. Madison needs me." "We'll arrange secure transport. Give us 15 minutes. The ride to Presbyterian Hospital was tense, 2 unmarked cars creating a protective convoy. I'd never imagined my life would require this level of security, but then I'd never imagined my father would be a money launderer for human traffickers either. I found Madison in the psychiatric ward. "What happened?" I asked the nurse. "Severe panic attack that triggered early labor symptoms. We've stabilized her physically but psychologically. She's struggling. She keeps asking for you." Madison looked smaller than ever in the hospital bed, her face puffy from crying. When she saw me, fresh tears started. "I can't do this," she whispered. "I can't bring a baby into this nightmare. Everyone knows who we are. The Walker name is poison. How am I supposed to raise a child when I can't even leave the house without people staring, whispering, taking pictures?" I sat beside her, remembering all the times we'd been in the same room but worlds apart. "You're stronger than you think." "No, I'm not. You're the strong one. You always were. I'm just the pretty one, remember? The one who was supposed to marry well and produce heirs." She laughed bitterly. "Well, I'm producing an heir. To what? A legacy of crime and murder." "To a legacy of survival," I corrected. "Your son will know his family's mistakes, but he'll also know that his mother chose to break the cycle. That's powerful, Madison." "You don't understand," she said, gripping my hand with surprising strength. "There's something I never told anyone about Dad, about what he did to me." My blood ran cold. At the engagement party, she'd mentioned abuse, but we'd been interrupted before she could elaborate. "You don't have to tell me if you're not ready." "No, I need to. I've been carrying this alone for so long." She took a shuddering breath. "It started when I was 14. Mom had gone to that spa retreat in Arizona. Tyler was at summer camp. Dad started coming into my room at night." I held her hand tighter, rage building in my chest. At first, it was just talking. How beautiful I was becoming. How I reminded him of Mom when she was young. Then it progressed. He never raped me. But the touching the comments, the way he'd watch me dress, he said it was normal that he was teaching me how to please a future husband. "Madison, I'm so sorry. I had no idea." "How could you?" "He was careful, only when we were alone. And he'd remind me constantly that I was his favorite, that I got everything I wanted because I was special to him. If I told anyone, I'd lose that status, become like you, ignored, unwanted." The manipulation was breathtaking in its cruelty. He'd used me as a threat to keep Madison silent about abuse. "Mom knew," she continued. "I tried to tell her once when I was 16. She slapped me and said I was being dramatic, said that men in powerful families had different ways of showing affection, and I should be grateful for the attention. She protected him instead of you. She protected the lifestyle, the money, the status. I was expendable as long as the Walker empire survived." Madison's voice turned hard. "That's when I started planning my escape through men. If I was going to be treated like a commodity, I'd at least choose my buyers." Everything made more sense now. Her calculated relationships, her desperate pursuit of wealthy men, even her affair with the professor, all attempts to gain power in a world where she'd been rendered powerless. "But I became exactly what they made me," she said. "A gold digger, a manipulator, a woman who uses her body as currency because she was taught it was her only value. You're more than that. You're about to be a mother. You get to write a new story. With what skills, what money, everything is frozen. I can't access my trust fund. I don't even know how to write a resume. I've never had a real job. Then you'll learn. We both will. This is our chance to become who we were meant to be, not who they forced us to become. A knock interrupted us. Dr. Patricia Hoffman, the psychiatrist, entered with a gentle smile. "Madison, how are you feeling?" "Like my entire life has been a lie and I have no idea who I really am." "That's actually a healthy realization," Dr. Hoffman said. "It means you're ready to begin discovering your authentic self. Trauma creates false identities. Healing reveals true ones." She looked at me. "Are you able to stay? Family support can be crucial during this process." I glanced at Agent Martinez, who nodded from the doorway. "I'll stay as long as needed." What followed was the most honest conversation Madison and I had ever had. With Dr. Hoffman's guidance, she began unpacking years of trauma manipulation and survival mechanisms. I shared my own experiences of emotional neglect, of constantly trying to earn love from people incapable of giving it. "You know what the saddest part is?" Madison said during a break. "I actually loved Brandon, not his money or status, him. He was kind and gentle and nothing like Dad, but I'd already poisoned it with lies before it could become real." "Have you considered reaching out to him, apologizing?" "He has a restraining order against me. His lawyers sent papers yesterday. I can't contact him, go near him, or make any claims about the pregnancy." "That might be for the best right now. You need to focus on healing, on preparing for motherhood." "Motherhood?" She placed a hand on her belly. "I'm terrified I'll be like Mom, cold calculating, willing to sacrifice my child for personal gain." "The fact that you're terrified of that means you won't be. Mom never questioned herself, never doubted her choices. She murdered her own mother and still thinks she was justified." Dr. Hoffman leaned forward. "Madison, have you considered pressing charges? What your father did constitutes sexual abuse of a minor." Madison shook her head violently. "No, I can't. He's already facing life in prison. What would be the point?" "The point would be your healing, your truth, your refusal to protect him anymore." "I'll think about it," Madison said quietly. As the session ended, Dr. Hoffman pulled me aside. "Your sister is showing signs of severe PTSD along with prenatal depression. She needs intensive therapy and constant support. Are you prepared for that level of involvement?" I thought about my new job, my FBI protection, my own trauma from recent events. Taking on Madison's recovery seemed overwhelming. But then I remembered Grandma Rose's words about family being more than blood. "She's my sister," I said simply. "I'll figure it out." Back in Madison's room, she was staring at her phone with a strange expression. "What is it?" She showed me the screen, an email from Morrison's wife. My stomach clenched, expecting vitriol. Instead, it was compassionate. "Madison, I saw the news about your family. While I can't forgive the affair, I recognize you were very young and potentially manipulated by my husband's position of power. I'm also a mother. No child should suffer for their parents' mistakes. If you need anything for the baby, clothes, supplies, advice, please let me know. Sincerely, Helen Morrison." Madison started crying again, but these tears seemed different, cleansing rather than despairing. "She's offering kindness when she has every right to hate me," Madison whispered. "Why?" "Because she's choosing to be better than our parents taught us to be. Maybe we can too." Over the next 2 hours, we talked about practical matters: where Madison would live after discharge, how to access the emergency funds Grandma Rose had left, finding an obstetrician who wouldn't judge her based on the Walker name. "I want to be better," Madison said as visiting hours ended. "For my son, for myself. But I don't know how to unlearn 26 years of conditioning. One day at a time, one choice at a time, one truth at a time. Will you help me not out of obligation but as my sister?" I looked at her, really looked at her. Not the perfect princess our parents had created, but the damaged woman trying to crawl out from under their wreckage. I saw myself in her, another survivor of the Walker family war. "Yes," I said, "we'll figure it out together." As I left with my security detail, my phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. "Heard Madison's in the psych ward. Guess the princess finally cracked. How's it feel to destroy your own sister?" I didn't respond. Tyler was still trying to manipulate to place blame everywhere but where it belonged. He'd learn eventually, or he wouldn't. Either way, it wasn't my problem to solve. In the car, Agent Martinez asked, "How is she?" "Surviving, like all of us." "The prosecutor wants to know if she'll testify about the abuse. It would strengthen the case against your father." "That's her choice to make, but I think she might. She's finding her voice." Back at the safe house, I sat with Grandma Rose's photo and told her about Madison's revelations, about the abuse we'd never seen, the pain hidden behind perfect makeup and designer clothes. "We're breaking the cycle," I whispered to her image. "It's messy and painful and scary, but we're doing it. Your great-grandson won't know the Walker curse. I promise you that." My phone rang. Alexander Chen. "I heard about the threats," he said without preamble. "I've arranged additional security for my family, but I wanted you to know. This doesn't change anything. You're still welcome to meet your sisters when you're ready." Even with Russian mobsters potentially targeting anyone connected to me, even then, family stands together against threats. Real family, anyway. After we hung up, I sat in the gathering darkness of the safe house processing everything. Madison's collapse, her revelations about abuse, Tyler's continued venom from jail, the Morrison wife's unexpected compassion, Alexander's steadfast offer of connection. The Walker Empire hadn't just been built on crime. It had been built on abuse, manipulation, and the systematic destruction of its own children. But empires built on such foundations always fall eventually. And from their ashes, something new could grow, something honest, something healthy, something real. Madison and I would build it together, two sisters who'd found each other in the wreckage of everything we'd known. It wouldn't be easy. Healing never was. But for the first time in our lives, we were choosing our own path instead of following the one laid out by damaged parents. That had to count for something. As I prepared for bed in a strange apartment under federal protection, I felt an odd sense of peace. The worst had been revealed. The secrets were out. The healing could finally begin. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, therapy sessions, legal depositions, security threats. But tonight I'd helped my sister begin to reclaim herself from the people who'd tried to destroy her. That felt like the most important victory yet. Friday morning brought an unexpected call from the Federal Detention Center. Not Tyler this time, but Patricia. "Lydia." My mother's voice was different, smaller, aged. "I need to see you." "No." "Please, I'm sick. The doctors here found something. I need to talk to you before—" I gripped the phone tighter. "Before what?" "Before you're convicted of murdering Grandma Rose. Before you spend the rest of your life in prison. Before I die," she said quietly. "Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. They say I have weeks, maybe a month." I sat down hard. Of all the manipulations, this felt the cruelest. "You're lying." "I wish I were. The medical reports are available through my lawyer. Harold Stevenson has been notified as executor of what's left of the estate. Check with him if you don't believe me." "Even if it's true, why should I care? You laughed while Dad punched me. You stole from dying children. You murdered your own mother." "Because despite everything, I'm still your mother. And I have information you need about the Kozlovs, about your safety. Things I didn't tell the FBI. Agent Martinez, monitoring the call, nodded at me to continue. "What information?" "Not over the phone, in person, alone. I'm in protective custody because of your criminal associations. I'm not meeting you alone." "Then you'll never know which of the Kozlov soldiers has been assigned to kill you, or when they plan to do it. Your choice, Lydia. Live in fear forever or face me one last time." The line went dead. I looked at Agent Martinez, who was already on her phone. "We'll verify the medical claims," she said. "If she's telling the truth about the cancer, we might be able to arrange a supervised visit. The information about Kozlov operations could be valuable." Harold Stevenson confirmed it within an hour. Patricia Walker had advanced pancreatic cancer diagnosed during intake medical screening. The prison doctors estimated 4 to 6 weeks without treatment, which she was refusing. "Why refuse treatment?" I asked Harold. "She says she won't give the government the satisfaction of keeping her alive just to die in prison. She wants to go on her own terms." How perfectly, Patricia, controlling until the end. 3 days of negotiation later, I sat in a sterile visiting room at the Federal Medical Center, Carswell. Patricia was brought in shackled, wearing orange instead of designer suits. The cancer had already started its visible work. Her skin was yellowing her perfectly maintained figure, now gaunt. "You came," she said, attempting her old imperious tone, but failing. "You said you had information." "All business, just like always. Can't you pretend just for a moment that you care your mother is dying?" "The mother I thought I had died the night you laughed at my pain. This is just a criminal who happened to give birth to me." Something flickered in her eyes, hurt regret. But Patricia Walker had taught me too well about manufactured emotions. "Fine," she said. "Let's be transactional. I'll give you information, you give me something in return." "I'm not giving you anything." "Not even forgiveness." "Especially not that." She leaned back, studying me. "You look like him. Your real father. Same stubborn jaw, same righteous anger. I loved him once, you know. Before I realized love doesn't pay mortgages or buy social standing. The information, Patricia, or I leave." Dmitry Kozlov has a nephew, Anton, early 30s, looks like a tech entrepreneur. Drives a Tesla, wears designer hoodies, completely harmless appearance. He's their top eliminator. Specializes in making deaths look accidental. Car accidents are his favorite. I kept my face neutral despite the chill running down my spine. "He's already in Dallas," she continued. "Has been for 2 weeks, establishing patterns, learning your routines. The FBI protection is good, but Anton is better. He once killed a witness in federal custody and made it look like suicide." "How do you know this?" "Because Robert hired him once before. A union leader who was going to expose the trafficking operation. Poor man's brakes failed on Central Expressway. Tragic accident, everyone said." "You knew about Dad murdering people and said nothing." "I knew about surviving in a world where weakness gets you killed, just like I knew your precious Grandma Rose was planning to cut us all off, just like I know things about your biological father that would destroy his judicial career." There it is, the threat. "What do you want, Patricia?" "I want to see my grandson before I die. Madison won't take my calls. You have influence with her now." "Madison is healing from years of abuse, the abuse you enabled. I won't traumatize her further for your closure." Abuse. Patricia's laugh turned into a cough. "You think letting Robert show affection to his favorite daughter was abuse? You have no idea what real abuse is, what I endured from my father, what his father did to him. We continued cycles, yes, but we also broke others. You and Madison never went hungry, never had cigarettes put out on your skin, never had to earn your dinner in ways that would make you vomit. So because you suffered worse, our suffering doesn't count. I'm saying perspective matters. We gave you opportunities we never had, education connections, possibilities. You gave Madison to a predator. You gave me a lifetime of rejection. You gave Tyler criminal role models. Those aren't opportunities, they're curses." She was quiet for a moment, then. "Anton drives a white Tesla Model S. License plate begins with PWR. He's staying at the Ritz-Carlton under the name Anthony Volkov. He likes to run at White Rock Lake every morning at 6, alone." I memorized the details while wondering why she was really telling me. "The FBI will use this information to arrest him," I said. "No, they'll use it to watch him. And while they're watching him, his partner will make the real move. Anton is obvious on purpose. He's the distraction." Who's the partner? That information costs more than you're willing to pay. Madison's forgiveness, a letter from you saying you forgive me. For the authorities, for the lawyers, for whatever's left of my reputation. Let me die as a mother who was forgiven by at least one daughter. No. Then enjoy looking over your shoulder forever, wondering if every friendly face hides a killer, if every car behind you carries death. The Kozlovs don't forgive, and they don't forget. Neither do I. We stared at each other across the metal table, mother and daughter, criminal and prosecutor, dying woman and survivor. You were always the smart one, Patricia said finally. Too smart for your own good. Do you know why I kept you? The real reason. To punish Dad for not being enough. To punish myself. Every time I looked at you, I saw my weakness, my one moment of following heart over head. Alexander was everything Robert wasn't, passionate, ethical, brilliant. But passion doesn't build empires. Ethics don't buy influence. So you chose money over love and spent 28 years making me pay for reminding you of that choice. Yes. The simple admission hung between us. I made you strong, though. Look at you now, taking down empires, standing against mobsters, rebuilding from ashes. Would a loved child have developed that steel? We'll never know, will we? Because you never gave me the chance to be anything but a survivor. Survival is everything, she said. It's the only truth that matters. You survived us. Make sure you survive them. A guard signaled our time was ending. Wait, Patricia said as I stood. One more thing. Your biological father. Be careful there, too. Alexander Chen isn't the saint you think he is. Everyone has secrets, Lydia. Everyone has prices. His are just better hidden than ours were. Is that another manipulation trying to poison the one good thing I've found? It's a warning from someone who learned too late that pedestals are meant to crumble. Don't trade one fantasy family for another. Goodbye, Patricia. Is that all? No last words for your dying mother? I looked at her one final time. This woman who'd given me life and tried to destroy it, who'd carried me for 9 months and spent 28 years punishing me for existing, who was dying alone, unloved, unmourned. I hope you find peace, I said finally. Somewhere in whatever comes next, I hope you find the peace you never allowed yourself or anyone else to have. Her face crumpled. For just a moment, I saw past the manipulator to the damaged woman underneath. Then the mask slammed back into place. Tell Madison I'm sorry, she said. Not for what I did, but for what I didn't do. For not being strong enough to break the cycle like you two are doing. I left without responding. In the parking lot, I gave Agent Martinez every detail about Anton and his potential partner. Within hours, surveillance teams would be mobilizing. Do you think she was telling the truth? Martinez asked as we drove away, about Anton being a distraction. I think Patricia Walker spent her life mixing truth with lies until she couldn't tell them apart. But we can't afford to ignore the warning. That evening, I found Madison at her new apartment, a modest 2-bedroom in Richardson that Brandon had helped secure through a proxy to keep her location private. She was in the nursery folding tiny onesies Harold had helped her buy with Grandma Rose's emergency funds. I saw her today, I said without preamble. Patricia, she's dying. Madison's hand stilled. Good. She wanted to see you, meet her grandson before she dies. My son will never know her, never know any of them except through court records and therapy sessions. She looked at me. Does that make me cruel? It makes you a protective mother. She created us, you know. Every manipulation, every twisted lesson, every time she chose money over our well-being, she created who we became. But we get to create who we'll be. I helped her fold clothes, tiny garments for a baby who would never know the toxic legacy he was escaping. We worked in comfortable silence, 2 sisters building something new from broken pieces. The Morrison woman sent more things, Madison said eventually. Baby supplies, maternity clothes, even a list of pediatricians who won't judge me for my last name. Why is she being so kind? Maybe she's showing us what we missed. What normal, healthy people do. They choose kindness over cruelty, forgiveness over revenge. I don't know if I can ever be that good. You don't have to be. You just have to be better than what we knew. My secure phone buzzed. Agent Martinez, we have eyes on Anton, and you were right. He's too obvious. We're looking for the partner. I showed Madison the message. Mom gave me information about the hitman. Part truth, part game. Even dying, she's still playing chess with our lives. Let her play alone. We're done being pawns. That night I stayed with Madison. We ordered Thai food, watched mindless reality TV, and pretended for a few hours that we were just normal sisters spending time together. No FBI protection, no Russian threats, no dying mother manipulating from prison. Do you think we'll ever feel safe again? Madison asked as we got ready for bed. Differently safe, I said. We'll never have the false safety of ignorance thinking our family protected us when they were the real danger. But we'll have the real safety of truth, of choosing who to trust based on actions rather than blood. I want that for my son, real safety, real love, real choices. Then he'll have it because you'll give it to him. As I lay on Madison's couch, I thought about Patricia's warning about Alexander Chen. Was it poison or truth? Did it matter I'd learned not to put anyone on pedestals, not to expect perfection from flawed humans? If Alexander had secrets, I discover them through relationship, not through Patricia's dying manipulations. My phone showed 3 missed calls from Tyler. I deleted them without listening to the voicemails. He'd chosen his path, aligning with criminals and expecting family loyalty to save him. Madison and I had chosen differently. Outside, somewhere in Dallas, Anton, the obvious assassin, was being watched by federal agents while his unknown partner planned the real attack. The Kozlovs were playing their game, the FBI theirs, and dying Patricia hers. But Madison and I were done playing. We were building instead. Building lives, building futures, building a family based on choice rather than chance, honesty rather than manipulation, love rather than fear. It wasn't perfect. We weren't healed. The threats were real and the future uncertain. But for the first time in our lives, we were free to face it on our own terms. And that freedom, bought with blood and truth and courage, was worth every sacrifice. Patricia Walker would die in prison alone with her manipulations and regrets. But her daughters would live in the light, raising the next generation to be everything she'd never allowed us to be. That was our revenge, our redemption, our revolution. And it started now in a modest apartment in Richardson with 2 damaged sisters folding baby clothes and choosing to begin again. Saturday morning arrived with unexpected sunshine and a text from Alexander Chen. The FBI has cleared a secure meeting location. Would you be willing to meet my family today? Sophie and Emma are eager to meet their sister. I stared at the message, coffee growing cold in my hands. After everything with Patricia yesterday, the idea of meeting more family felt overwhelming. But these weren't Walkers. These were Chens. Maybe that made a difference. Only if you're ready, he added. No pressure. Madison found me still staring at the phone an hour later when she emerged from her bedroom, moving slowly but steadily. What's wrong? She asked, then saw the message. Your biological father. He wants me to meet his daughters, my half-sisters. That's good, right? A chance for real family. Or another disappointment. Patricia warned me yesterday that everyone has secrets, that Alexander isn't the saint. I think he is. Madison poured herself orange juice, considering. Mom told me once that you were worthless, that I should never end up like you. She told you I was the shallow one, that you should never trust me. She weaponized us against each other our whole lives. Why would we believe her now? She had a point. Patricia's final manipulation could be just that, an attempt to poison the one good thing I'd found. You should go, Madison continued. But go with open eyes. Don't expect perfection. Just see who they really are. 2 hours later, I sat in a private dining room at a discreet hotel in Plano, my FBI detail stationed outside. Alexander arrived first alone. "Thank you for coming," he said, sitting across from me. "I wanted a moment before the girls arrive to prepare you." "For what?" "They're teenagers. Sophie especially has strong opinions about the situation. She's protective of our family unit. Emma's more open, but she follows her sister's lead. Don't take it personally if they're standoffish at first." "I'm used to family rejection. I'll be fine." His face tightened. "You shouldn't be used to it. No child should be." Before I could respond, the door opened. 2 teenage girls entered with a woman who could only be their mother. The family resemblance was striking. All 3 shared the same elegant features and intelligent eyes. "Lydia, this is my wife, Dr. Catherine Chen, and our daughters Sophie and Emma." Catherine stepped forward first, extending her hand. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you. Alexander has told us so much." Her handshake was firm, her smile genuine but cautious. I recognized the protective mother energy immediately. Sophie, 16, and clearly the alpha sister, studied me with calculating eyes. "So you're the secret daughter." "Sophie," Alexander warned. That's what she is. Mom didn't know about her. We didn't know about her. Now suddenly we're supposed to play happy family." "I'm not asking you to play anything," I said directly to Sophie. "I'm just meeting you. No expectations, no obligations." Emma, 14 and softer than her sister, smiled tentatively. "I think it's cool. I always wanted an older sister. Sophie just bosses me around, but you could give me real advice." "I don't need advice from someone who destroyed her own family," Sophie shot back. The room went silent. Catherine's face flushed. Sophie Chen apologized immediately. For what, it's true. She turned her parents into the FBI. What kind of person does that? "The kind whose father punched her in the face while her mother laughed," I said calmly. "The kind whose family was laundering money for human traffickers. The kind who chose justice over enabling criminals." Sophie blinked momentarily, silenced. "You didn't see the whole video, Soph," Emma said quietly. "Just the clips on TikTok. The full one shows her dad hitting her. It's awful." Language, Emma. Catherine said automatically, then looked at me. "I'm sorry, we should have prepared them better. This is adjustment for everyone." "It's fine. Sophie's protecting her family. I respect that." Sophie studied me more carefully. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "Someone dramatic, attention-seeking. The video went viral, and usually people who go viral are trying to be famous." The video going viral was the worst part of this. I never wanted attention. I just wanted to survive my family and somehow got caught in the crossfire of their implosion. Alexander cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should order lunch, get to know each other over food." What followed was the most surreal meal of my life. Catherine, a pediatric surgeon, asked careful questions about my work. Emma peppered me with inquiries about law school and whether being a lawyer was like TV shows. Sophie remained mostly silent, observing. "Why corporate law?" Catherine asked. "With your experience, criminal law seems natural." "I've had enough of criminals. Corporate contracts are clean. Clear terms, defined outcomes, no one trying to kill you for doing your job correctly." "Is it true the Russian mob is after you?" Emma asked, eyes wide. "Emma." Catherine looked horrified. "It's okay," I said. "Yes, it's true. My father was working with some dangerous people. When I exposed his crimes, I became a target. That's why I have security." "That's actually kind of badass," Emma said, earning another reproving look from her mother. Sophie finally spoke again. "Do you regret it, turning them in?" "No. They were hurting people. Trafficking humans, stealing money, destroying lives. My only regret is not seeing it sooner." "But they're still your family." "Biology doesn't make a family. Choice does. They chose crime. I chose justice. Now we all live with those choices." Sophie nodded slowly, something shifting in her expression. "Dad said you graduated top of your law class." "Yes. I want to be a lawyer, too. Environmental law. Hold corporations accountable for climate crimes." "That's admirable. Hard field, but important. Would you be willing to talk to me about law school applications and stuff? Dad doesn't really know the current process." Alexander smiled slightly. And there it is. Sophie's real agenda revealed. "Dad," Sophie protested, but she was fighting a smile. The tension began to ease. Emma showed me pictures from their recent vacation. Catherine shared stories about their medical mission trips. Sophie grudgingly admitted she'd researched my law firm and was impressed by their civil rights work. "We're not asking you to be part of the family overnight," Catherine said as lunch wound down, "but we'd like to get to know you. Take things slowly, see where it goes." "I'd like that too." "Can I ask about your sister?" Catherine's voice was gentle. Alexander mentioned she's pregnant and struggling. "Madison is rebuilding her life from scratch. Our parents damaged her in different ways than me. She's finding her strength. If she needs medical referrals, OB/GYNs who won't judge, I have colleagues." "Thank you. That's very kind." Sophie's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her face went pale. "Dad, look at this." She showed him the screen. His expression darkened immediately. "What is it?" I asked. Alexander hesitated, then showed me. A news alert. "Patricia Walker, convicted murderer, dies in federal custody." The room went silent. I stared at the screen, feeling nothing. No grief, no relief, just emptiness where a mother's death should hurt. "I'm sorry," Catherine said softly. "Don't be. She died as she lived, making everything about herself." "That's cold," Sophie observed, but not unkindly. "Maybe, or maybe it's honest. She laughed while my father assaulted me. She murdered my grandmother for money. She stole from dying children. What am I supposed to feel?" "Whatever you need to feel," Emma said with surprising wisdom. "There's no right way to grieve someone who hurt you." Alexander's phone rang. He stepped away to answer, returning with a grim expression. "That was Agent Martinez. They want you in protective custody immediately. Apparently, Patricia left a posthumous message that's triggered increased Kozlov activity." "Of course she did," I muttered. "One last manipulation from beyond the grave." "We'll do this again," Catherine promised as we prepared to leave. "When things are calmer, you're always welcome in our home." Sophie surprised me by stepping forward. "I'm sorry about before. I was being protective and kind of a bitch." "Sophie language," Catherine sighed. "You were being a sister," I corrected. "Protecting your family. I understand that better than you know." Emma hugged me quickly. "Don't let the bad guys get you okay. We just found you." In the car with Agent Martinez, I processed the whirlwind of meeting the Chens, while Patricia's death notification played on news stations. The message she left Martinez said carefully, "It's a video, posted to multiple platforms simultaneously upon her death. We're trying to get it taken down, but it's already spreading." She handed me a tablet. Patricia's face filled the screen, gaunt but perfectly made up for her final performance. "If you're watching this, I'm dead," Patricia began. "Killed by the criminal justice system that protected real criminals while prosecuting a desperate mother. But I don't go quietly. I name names. I reveal truths, starting with Judge Alexander Chen." My blood froze. 29 years ago, Alexander Chen sexually assaulted me at a law school party. I was drunk, unable to consent, and he took advantage. When I became pregnant with his child, I begged him for help. He threatened to destroy me if I ever revealed the truth. I married Robert Walker to give my baby a name, a father respectability. "She's lying," I said, but my voice sounded hollow even to me. Patricia continued her poisonous monologue, weaving just enough truth with lies to sound credible. She painted herself as a victim, Alexander as a predator, me as the product of assault. "This is her final manipulation," Martinez said, "destroying everyone who survived her." But the damage was done. Within hours, Alexander would be facing investigations, his reputation shattered. The Chen family I'd just met would be thrust into scandal, and I would forever be labeled the daughter of an alleged assault. Patricia Walker had found a way to control the narrative even in death, ensuring no one escaped the Walker family curse unscathed. My phone buzzed. Madison. I'm watching the news. She's lying, right? She has to be lying. I thought about Alexander's gentle demeanor, Catherine's protectiveness, the girl's normalcy. Then I thought about how well predators could hide how Patricia mixed truth with lies, how even monsters could have loving families. I don't know, I texted back. I don't know anything anymore. The safe house felt smaller that night, the walls closing in with each news update. Patricia's video had gone viral, sparking debates about powerful men, victimized women, and the children caught between. I sat in darkness wondering if there was any truth to her claims, or if this was just her final act of destruction. Either way, she'd won. The Chen family was tainted now, just like the Walkers. The poison spread to everyone it touched. My secure phone rang. Alexander. It's not true, he said without preamble. None of it. We dated consensually for 3 months. She ended it to marry Robert for money. I have emails, witnesses, proof. Why didn't she just say I was from the affair? Why add assault to the lie? Because an affair makes her look calculating. An assault makes her a victim. Even in death, she's managing perception. Your daughters, Catherine. They know the truth. We're united. But Lydia, this will get worse before it gets better. The media, the investigation. You might want to distance yourself from us until it passes. No, I heard myself say. I'm done letting Patricia control my relationships. If you're telling the truth, we face this together. If you're lying, I'll handle that too. But I won't run anymore. You're sure? I've survived the Walkers. I can survive this too. After we hung up, I sat with Grandma Rose's photo. She's still trying to destroy us, I whispered. Even dead, she won't let us be free. But freedom wasn't given. It was taken, claimed, fought for. And I was done letting Patricia Walker win. Monday morning arrived with a media storm. Patricia's posthumous video had been viewed over 10 million times, sparking nationwide debates about power, consent, and justice. Protesters gathered outside the federal courthouse where Alexander worked. My phone buzzed nonstop with interview requests I continued to ignore. But I had a job to start. Brandon Whitfield personally met me at the building's private entrance, bypassing the reporters camped at the main doors. Rough weekend, he said, simply leading me through security. That's an understatement. For what it's worth, no one here believes Patricia's video. We've dealt with the Walker family professionally for years. We know their patterns. And what pattern is this? Scorched earth. When cornered, they destroy everything around them rather than accept responsibility. Your mother just found a way to do it from beyond the grave. The Whitfield and Associates offices occupied the top 5 floors of a downtown high-rise. Brandon led me past curious faces to a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Dallas. This is yours, he said. I stared at the space, larger than my apartment, elegantly furnished with a view that stretched to the horizon. This is senior partner level, which is what we're grooming you for. Your experience with financial crimes, your integrity under pressure, your willingness to stand for justice, regardless of personal cost, that's exactly what our new division needs. Brandon, I appreciate this, but given the current media attention, will die down. Scandals always do. Truth endures, and the truth is you're a brilliant lawyer who chose justice over family loyalty. That's rare. A knock interrupted us. Eleanor Whitfield entered Brandon's mother and the firm's managing partner. I'd last seen her at Madison's disastrous engagement party. Ms. Walker, she said coolly. Or do you prefer Ms. Chen now? Walker is fine. It's still my legal name. Good. Changing names suggests shame or flight. You have nothing to be ashamed of. She sat gracefully studying me. I owe you an apology. For what? I knew what your sister was the moment Brandon introduced her. Gold digger was written all over her, but I let it continue, curious to see how far the scheme would go. I was prepared to destroy her at the wedding publicly as a lesson to other fortune hunters. That's cruel. Yes, but not as cruel as what she planned for my son. You saved me from becoming the villain in that story. You saved Brandon from a lifetime of manipulation. For that, I'm grateful. I didn't do it for you. No, you did it accidentally while making a kind toast. That's what convinced me you're nothing like your family. A walker would have calculated the exposure for maximum damage. You simply spoke truth carelessly and were horrified by the consequences. Brandon leaned against the desk. Mother has a point. Your integrity isn't performed. It's genuine. That's why we want you here. Even with Russian mobsters potentially targeting me, with my mother's posthumous accusations against a federal judge, with my entire family imprisoned or dead, especially with all that, Eleanor said, you're still standing, still fighting, still maintaining your ethics. Do you know how rare that is? A younger attorney knocked and entered. Sorry to interrupt, Ms. Walker, there's a Madison Walker in the lobby. Security won't let her up without your approval. I looked at the Whitfields. My sister. She's pregnant and... Bring her up, Brandon said immediately. She's welcome here. Minutes later, Madison appeared visibly pregnant and exhausted. She froze seeing the Whitfields. Brandon, Mrs. Whitfield, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were here. I just needed to see Lydia. What's wrong? I asked. They released Mom's body to me as next of kin. I have to make funeral arrangements. I don't know what to do. Dad's lawyers say he wants a big service to maintain appearances. Tyler's demanding military honors because of Dad's fabricated service record, and the media is circling like vultures. Sit, Eleanor commanded, and Madison obeyed automatically. When is the baby due? 6 weeks. And you're dealing with this stress alone. Lydia's been helping, but she has her own life, her own problems. I shouldn't keep burdening her. Family isn't a burden, Brandon said quietly. Real family anyway. I wouldn't know about real family, Madison said bitterly. I only know the Walker version. Eleanor stood. Here's what's going to happen. Whitfield and Associates will handle the funeral arrangements through our discreet services division. Simple, dignified, private. No media circus. No criminal associates. Just closure. I can't afford pro bono. Consider it a gift to your son, ensuring his grandmother's burial doesn't become another viral spectacle. Madison started crying. Why are you being kind to me? I tried to trap your son. I lied to him. I targeted him. Because, Eleanor said simply, someone needs to show you what grace looks like. You've clearly never seen it before. I watched this unexpected moment. The Whitfield matriarch extending compassion to the woman who'd tried to con her family. It was everything Patricia Walker would never have done. Thank you, Madison whispered. Don't thank me. Prove you're worthy of it. Raise your son to be better than what you knew. Break the cycle. After Madison left with funeral coordinators, Brandon showed me to my new office. Mother likes her. She sees potential. Eleanor Whitfield sees potential in my sister. She sees a young woman who was programmed for manipulation but is choosing differently. Mother respects evolution. I spent the rest of the day diving into case files, grateful for work that didn't involve family drama. But the respite was short-lived. Agent Martinez called at 4. We've arrested Anton Volkov. He was preparing to tamper with your car. But Lydia, he wasn't working alone. There's definitely a second operative. Any leads? He's not talking, but we found something interesting. Text messages mentioning the inside woman, someone with access to your schedule, your routines. That could be anyone. The media has documented my every move. This person knew which safe house you were in. That's classified information. A chill ran through me. You think there's a leak? Or someone you trust is compromised. Be extra careful. Trust no one completely. That evening, Alexander called. The Bar Association is opening an investigation based on Patricia's allegations. I'll be vindicated, but it'll be ugly. I understand if you need to distance yourself. I told you already, I'm not running. Patricia doesn't get to destroy any more relationships from the grave. You're remarkable, you know that after everything your family put you through, you still choose connection over isolation. Maybe that's my rebellion. They wanted me alone, unwanted dependent, so I choose the opposite. Sophie asked if you'd help with her law school essay, if you're willing. Of course, email it to me. Small steps toward building something new, a sister choosing honesty, a teenage half-sister seeking guidance, a law firm offering mentorship, pieces of a life beyond the Walker wreckage. But that night, as I reviewed Sophie's essay in my safe house, I couldn't shake Agent Martinez's warning. Someone with inside knowledge was feeding information to the Kozlovs. The obvious suspects were either dead or imprisoned. So who was the inside woman? I thought about everyone who'd shown kindness lately. Harold Stevenson, who'd revealed Grandma Rose's letter. The Whitfields, who'd offered me a future. Catherine Chen, who'd welcomed me despite the circumstances. Even Helen Morrison, who'd extended grace to Madison. Any of them could be compromised, threatened, bribed, or simply playing a longer game than I could see. Or maybe Patricia's final poison was working exactly as intended, making me suspect kindness question, generosity, see threats in every shadow. I wouldn't let her win, not from beyond the grave, not through fear or paranoia. Tomorrow, Patricia Walker would be buried quietly without spectacle. Her empire had fallen, her family scattered, her legacy reduced to viral videos and criminal charges. But Madison and I were building something new, imperfect, fragile, but real. And that was the best revenge of all. Not just surviving Patricia Walker, but thriving despite her. The inside woman, whoever she was, would reveal herself eventually. Until then, I'd keep building, keep trusting carefully, keep choosing hope over fear. Because that was the one thing Patricia never understood. Destruction was easy, but creation took real courage. And I was done with easy. 6 months later, the federal courthouse in Dallas buzzed with media attention. Today was the day. Robert Walker would be sentenced for embezzlement, tax evasion, and RICO violations. Tyler would learn his fate for drug trafficking, and I would testify one final time about the financial crimes I'd uncovered. I sat in the witness preparation room with Brandon Whitfield, now my mentor and friend. My bruises had long faded, but the memories remained sharp. "Ready?" he asked. "I've been ready since the night he punched me." The media will be brutal. Patricia's video still has believers who think you're defending your rapist father against your victimized mother. Let them think what they want. I know the truth. The courtroom was packed. I saw Madison in the gallery, 8-month-old Ross sleeping in her arms. She'd gotten her GED, started community college, and worked part-time at a nonprofit helping abuse survivors. The transformation was remarkable. Alexander sat with his family in another section. The bar investigation had cleared him completely. Patricia's emails proving their relationship had been consensual. But mud sticks, and he'd faced months of scrutiny. Catherine caught my eye and nodded encouragingly. Harold Stevenson was there, having helped unravel the estate fraud. Even Helen Morrison attended, sitting near Madison in a show of support that still surprised me. Then they brought in Robert Walker. 6 months in federal detention had aged him. His powerful frame had shrunk, his commanding presence diminished, but his eyes still held that familiar rage when they found mine. I took the stand for the final time, walking through the financial evidence with clinical precision. Every forged document, every shell company, every diverted payment. The prosecutor guided me through it, methodically building an ironclad case. Ms. Walker. The defense attorney began cross-examination. "Isn't it true you violated attorney-client privilege by revealing these documents?" "No, there's no privilege when an attorney discovers ongoing criminal activity. I had an ethical obligation to report it." "You had an obligation to your family." "I had an obligation to the law, to the workers he trafficked, to the taxpayers he stole from. Family doesn't supersede justice." "Even when that family raised you, fed you, educated you." I looked directly at Robert. "Especially then. They had every advantage. Wealth, education, opportunity. They chose crime. I chose to stop enabling it. You destroyed your own family. No, they destroyed themselves. I just stopped helping them hide it. The prosecutor redirected, letting me explain the human cost of Robert's crimes, the trafficked workers living in squalor, the legitimate businesses undercut by his fraud, the charities deprived of Grandma Rose's donations. When I stepped down, Robert suddenly spoke. You were never my daughter. Just a parasite I was forced to feed. I hope the Russians find you. The judge held him in contempt, but the damage was done. His threat echoed through the courtroom, picked up by every microphone. During recess, Agent Martinez pulled me aside. We arrested the inside woman this morning. You're going to be shocked. Who? Natasha Volkov, Tyler's girlfriend. She's been feeding information to her family while pretending to be a victim herself. She had access through Tyler to everything. Your safe house locations, your schedule, even your car details. I thought of Tyler sitting in custody, believing his girlfriend was faithfully waiting. Another walker destroyed by misplaced trust. The afternoon brought Tyler's sentencing. He looked gaunt, desperate, all bravado stripped away. His lawyer painted him as a victim of his father's influence, but the evidence was overwhelming. I was set up, Tyler shouted as the judge read his sentence. Lydia orchestrated everything. She's the real criminal. 8 years. Less than he deserved, but more than he could handle. As they led him away, he screamed threats until the doors closed on his voice forever. Robert received 15 years for the financial crimes with additional charges pending for the human trafficking. The empire he'd built through crime would be liquidated, the proceeds going to his victims. How does it feel? A reporter asked as I left the courthouse. Watching your father go to prison. He was never my father, I said, echoing his words. Just a criminal who happened to live in the same house. The media frenzy continued outside, but I pushed through to where Madison waited by her car. It's over, she said quietly. They're gone. We're free. Not quite. There's one more thing. That evening, we held Patricia's real funeral. Not the spectacle Robert had wanted or the erasure Tyler had demanded. Just Madison, me, Harold, and surprisingly, Grandma Rose's friends from her charity work. She was a complicated woman, the minister said diplomatically, perhaps lost more than evil. Madison and I exchanged glances. Evil felt accurate, but we let the fiction stand. Some truths didn't need stating at gravesides. Do you want to say anything? The minister asked. Madison stepped forward, Ross in her arms. Patricia Walker was many things. A mother who failed her children, a daughter who murdered her mother, a woman who chose greed over grace. But she was also a victim of cycles she couldn't break. I choose to break them. My son will know love without conditions, support without manipulation, family without crime. That's her only legacy worth preserving. The lesson of what not to become. I hadn't planned to speak, but found myself standing. She gave me life, then spent 28 years punishing me for it. She taught me that blood doesn't make family, choice does. So I choose to forgive her, not for her sake, but for mine. I choose to move forward without her poison in my veins. Rest in whatever peace you can find, Patricia. Your war is over. We survive. As they lowered her casket, Madison reached for my hand. We stood together, sisters by blood, but family by choice, watching the woman who'd tried to destroy us disappear into the earth. What now? Madison asked as we walked away. Now we live, really live, not in reaction to them, but in spite of them. 3 months later, I stood in a different courtroom, this time testifying against the Kozlov organization. Natasha had flipped, providing evidence of the entire money laundering network. Her testimony, combined with mine and the financial records, brought down one of the largest trafficking rings in the Southwest. Anton Volkov got 25 years. Dmitry Kozlov life without parole. The inside woman who'd pretended to love Tyler while setting him up for destruction received 10 years. You did it, Agent Martinez said after the verdict. You brought down 2 criminal empires. I just told the truth. In my experience, that's the most dangerous thing anyone can do. That night, I had dinner with the Chen family. It had become a weekly tradition. Sophie grilling me about law school, Emma sharing teenage drama, Catherine and Alexander offering the parental support I'd never known. So, Sophie announced over dessert, I got into Harvard Law. The table erupted in congratulations. I felt genuine pride for this sister I was still getting to know. Will you help me prepare? She asked. I want to be ready. Of course. But Sophie, don't go to law school to be like me. Go to become yourself. I want to fight for justice like you did. Justice has many forms. Find yours. Later, Alexander walked me to my car. Thank you for being part of their lives. Part of our lives. Thank you for proving Patricia wrong, for being exactly the father she said you weren't. I'm not perfect, Lydia. I have regrets. Missing 28 years of your life, chief among them. We can't change the past, only choose better futures. Very lawyer-like. I wonder where you get that from. We shared a smile, not quite father-daughter, but something growing toward it. The drive to Madison's apartment was peaceful. No security detail needed anymore. The threats were imprisoned or dead. The danger passed. I found Madison putting Ross to bed singing the lullaby Grandma Rose used to sing to us. The baby had Robert's blue eyes, but none of his cruelty, just innocent curiosity about the world. Stay for tea, Madison asked. We sat on her balcony looking out at the Dallas skyline. Same city where we'd grown up, but everything changed. I got promoted, Madison said. Assistant director at the shelter. They say I connect with the women because I understand survival. You do, better than most. Helen Morrison recommended me, said I had a gift for helping women escape toxic situations. Ironic considering. Or perfect. You know the traps because you lived them. We both did. And we both escaped. Madison raised her teacup. To escape, to survival, to choosing better. To Grandma Rose, who loved us when no one else did. To Ross, who'll never know the Walker curse. We clinked cups, sisters who'd found each other in the wreckage of a toxic family. Not perfect, not healed, but healing. Choosing each day to be better than what we'd known. My phone buzzed with a text from Brandon. Major financial crimes case coming in tomorrow. International money laundering. You interested? I showed Madison, who laughed. From one criminal empire to another. You sure know how to pick them. Someone has to stop them. Might as well be someone who understands how they think. The Walker training used for good. The only redemption for it. As I drove home to my new apartment, no longer needing safe houses, I thought about the journey. From the woman who walked into Madison's engagement party, hoping to celebrate, to the woman who'd brought down 2 criminal empires and found real family in the process. Patricia was wrong about many things, but she was right about one. Survival was everything. She just never understood that true survival meant more than physical existence. It meant choosing integrity over easy money, truth over comfortable lies, justice over family loyalty. It meant becoming who you were meant to be, not who they tried to make you. The Walker Empire was ashes. The family who'd built it were dead or imprisoned. But Madison and I rose from those ashes phoenixes who'd learned to fly despite broken wings. And we soared. The Seattle rain drummed against my office windows at Whitfield and Associates' Pacific Northwest branch. I'd transferred 6 months ago, needing distance from Dallas and its memories. The city suited me. Clean, forward-thinking, far from Texas dynasties, built on crime. My assistant knocked. Ms. Walker, your 3 o'clock is here. Send her in. Madison entered shaking rain from her umbrella. She looked radiant. Motherhood and purpose had transformed her from the broken woman in a hospital bed to someone I barely recognized. This city is drowning, she laughed, settling into a chair. How do you stand it? It washes things clean. I like that. She'd flown up from Dallas, where she now ran a successful nonprofit, helping women escape abusive relationships. The girl trained to be decorative had become a warrior for the vulnerable. How's Ross? Walking everywhere, talking nonstop. He calls Catherine Gamma Kate. She smiled. The Chens have been wonderful. Sunday dinners, birthday parties, normal family things. I'm glad. I was. The Chen family had embraced Madison and Ross in ways I hadn't expected. Catherine especially had taken Madison under her wing, providing the maternal guidance Patricia never had. Speaking of family, Madison pulled out her phone. Sophie wanted me to show you this. A photo of Sophie at Harvard Law standing before the same building where our mother had met Alexander decades ago. But Sophie's story would be different, built on truth, not deception. She's thriving, Madison continued. Says your weekly video calls keep her sane. She keeps me grounded, reminds me why we do this work. Speaking of work, how's the new case? I gestured to the files covering my desk. Remember the Kozlov organization? Turns out they were just one tentacle. We're unraveling an international network. Billions in laundered money, thousands of trafficking victims. And you're leading the charge. Part of a team. Brandon's here too, running the criminal division. We're building something important. Madison studied me with that perception she'd developed. You look happy. Really happy. I am. For the first time in my life, I'm not running from something or fighting against something. I'm building toward something. Any personal building that Prosecutor Brandon mentioned seemed interested. I laughed. Maybe someday. Right now I'm learning to be myself without crisis. Turns out I don't know who that is yet. I think you do. You're the woman who stood up to monsters, who chose justice over comfort, who saved your sister even when she didn't deserve it. You saved yourself. You showed me it was possible. We sat quietly sisters who'd traveled impossible distances to reach this moment. Outside Seattle hummed with life, indifferent to our small triumph over generational trauma. I have something for you, Madison said, pulling out an envelope, from Ross's baptism last week. I opened it to find a photo. Madison holding Ross surrounded by the Chens, Harold Stevenson, even Helen Morrison. A patchwork family built from the ruins of a toxic one. We missed you, Madison said, but I understand why you couldn't come back yet. Someday, when Dallas feels less like a graveyard. Tyler gets out in 5 years. He's found religion, apparently. Keeps writing letters about forgiveness and redemption. Good for him. I hope he means it. You don't want to reconcile. I want him to heal, but that's his journey, not mine. I've done my forgiving from a distance. Madison nodded. She understood boundaries, now had learned to set her own. There's something else, she said carefully. Harold's been managing Grandma Rose's recovered funds. The estate's worth more than we thought. He wants to know what to do with your portion. Give it to the charities she intended. All of it. Lydia, it's almost $1 million. I know, but I don't want money tied to their crimes. Let Grandma Rose's wishes finally be honored. You're sure? I make good money. I have what I need. Ross should have something for college, but the rest goes to help others. It's what she would have wanted. Madison's eyes filled with tears. You're nothing like them. Neither are you, not anymore. A knock interrupted us. Brandon entered tall and commanding in his prosecutor's suit. Sorry to interrupt. Lydia, the Hong Kong team, has a breakthrough. They need us on a call in 10. I'll be right there. He smiled at Madison. Good to see you. Lydia talks about you constantly. All good, I hope. The best. You two are an inspiration. Proof that cycles can be broken. After he left, Madison grinned. He's gorgeous and clearly interested. He's my colleague. Who flew to Seattle to work with you specifically? To build a financial crimes unit. Right, just business. Her smile was knowing. I should go. Long flight back. I walked her to the elevator. Thank you for coming, for the photo, for becoming my sister. Thank you for showing me I could be more than they made me. We hugged real affection between siblings who'd earned their relationship. As the elevator doors closed, she called out, Give Brandon a chance. You deserve love that isn't tainted by the past. Alone in the hallway, I considered her words. Love had always come with conditions, manipulations, pain. But maybe that was another Walker lie worth abandoning. Back in my office, I prepared for the Hong Kong call. Financial crimes spanning continents requiring the expertise I'd gained from surviving the walkers. Dark knowledge transformed into a force for justice. My desk phone rang, Sophie calling between classes. "Quick question," she said breathlessly. "Professor mentioned the Walker case in criminal law. Is it weird that I'm proud my sister brought down a crime family?" "A little weird, but I'll take it." "He doesn't know we're related, but I wanted to stand up and say, that's my sister. She did that. Focus on your studies, make your own mark." "I will, but Lydia, I'm glad you're my sister. Blood and choice." After she hung up, I sat looking at the Seattle skyline. Somewhere Robert Walker sat in federal prison, his empire dust. Tyler counted days in a cell, hopefully finding genuine redemption. Patricia lay in a modest grave, her manipulations finally silent. But here in this rain-washed city, the Walker curse had no power. I'd built a life defined by integrity, purpose, connection. The family I'd chosen, the Chens Madison, the Whitfields, even Helen Morrison, proved that love didn't require blood or manipulation. Brandon knocked laptop in hand. "Ready Hong Kong thinks they've identified the main money launderer." "Always ready." As we worked through evidence that would save countless trafficking victims, I thought about Grandma Rose. She'd be proud, I think, not of the destruction. That was necessary, but not noble. But of what came after. The building, the choosing, the becoming. The Walker name would forever be associated with crime, betrayal, murder. But names were just words. Actions defined us. And my actions finally were my own. That night, after successfully coordinating with Hong Kong to freeze $30 million in criminal assets, Brandon suggested dinner. "Just colleagues grabbing food," he clarified at my hesitation. "I don't do just anything anymore," I said. "If we have dinner, it's as two people interested in possibilities." His smile was answer enough. Over seafood and honest conversation, I told him about the nightmares that still came, about the fear that Walker blood meant Walker fate, about learning to trust my own judgment after a lifetime of gaslighting. "You're the strongest person I know," he said simply. "Not because you don't have scars, but because you turn them into armor for others." "Careful, I don't do fairy tales. No white knights or damsels." "Good, I prefer partnerships between equals." Maybe Madison was right. Maybe I deserved love untainted by the past. Maybe Brandon, who'd seen my family's worst and still saw my best, was worth the risk. As he walked me home through Seattle's gentle rain, I felt something I'd never experienced. Uncomplicated happiness. No ulterior motives. No manipulation. No fear. Just two people choosing to explore what could be. "Thank you," I said at my door. "For dinner." "For seeing me. Not the viral video victim or the whistleblower or the damaged daughter. Just me. That's all I've ever seen, and she's remarkable." After he left, I stood in my apartment, my own space earned through my own work, decorated with my own choices. The photo Madison had brought sat on my mantle. My chosen family gathered in celebration of new life. Tomorrow would bring new cases, new challenges, new opportunities to transform darkness into justice. The Kozloff network would fall like the Walkers had brought down by truth and determination. But tonight I was simply Lydia, not defined by the man who'd punched me or the mother who'd laughed, not limited by the family that had tried to destroy me, free to build, to choose, to become. The rain washed Seattle clean and I slept without nightmares. The curse was broken. The future was mine. And it was beautiful. If you've stayed with me through this journey, you've witnessed something powerful, the transformation of trauma into triumph. The Walker family tried to destroy Lydia, but she chose to become unbreakable instead. Maybe you've faced your own toxic family. Maybe you've been told you're not enough or too much, or that blood obligates you to accept abuse. Maybe you're struggling to break cycles that feel insurmountable. Here's what Lydia's story teaches us. You are not defined by the family you were born into. You are defined by the choices you make, the values you uphold, and the life you build. Breaking free is painful, messy, and sometimes dangerous. But staying trapped is spiritual death. If Lydia's journey resonated with you, I'd love to hear why. What cycles are you breaking? What toxic patterns are you leaving behind? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found value in this story of survival and redemption, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Share it with someone who needs to know they're not alone in their struggle to break free. Remember, your family of origin is chance. Your family of choice is destiny. Choose wisely. Choose yourself. Choose freedom. Until next time, keep breaking those cycles and building your beautiful life. Thank you for reading.